Greetings, my excellent friends, and welcome to the 7th. Wow, that's a few, isn't it? Session of our Vampire the Masquerade V5 Chronicle City of Dread. With me tonight are our 4 vampires. In the top left, we have, as always, Stipuffin as Nulai. Not in a box today. Perhaps we'll put him in one later.
Give it time.
Yes. I like to think that Nulai doesn't feel at home sleeping in beds anymore, and so he's got a box in his room. I don't know. I don't have the I don't have the authority to make that character detail, but you know, if it struck you as good.
Well, it depends on whether how much was spent on the box. You know, like some people really like fancy, caskets.
Perhaps it's a golden box. I see. Well, if you're lucky. Okay, in our top right, we have once again with us after missing last session and being missed dearly, Raptor as Flynn. Welcome
Hello.
back. I look forward to seeing what Flynn was up to in the absence.
So do I. I'd like to know.
Yes, you don't yet. Well, you do. You sort of do. In the bottom left, we have Blue Moon Empress as Katia once again, who was here last week, so wasn't missed because there was no reason for that, much like the others. And in the bottom right, having coming at us live from a bouncy castle, I think, we have Ruthie as Joanne. I do have to ask, something wrong?
No, just, you know how your phone will stand sideways when you want it to, but then when you really need it to, it just keeps sliding down no matter the surface or the angle.
Yes, well, we will be polite, and we won't call attention to the bouncy when it does happen. We thank you for coming to us from your mobile phone today, since that is kind of a pain in the arse, I don't doubt it. Though, I like that you look just surrounded in bright light. I don't know that Joanne would do well with that.
No, I don't think Joanne would, no, yes. Unfortunately.
We pan back to you and your hair is just fire now. How you doing? I'm fine. You
this
giving
is
us
fine.
the dog in the burning building vibes. It's cool. It's, all the cool kids are doing that in the 21st century because life is on fire all the time. Anyway, before we get into the action, as always, allow me to just set the scene, remind everybody of what you are watching, if it is the first episode you happen to have wandered into. This is Vampire the Masquerade, a tabletop game set in the world of darkness, a world much like our own, but with certain supernatural horrors lurking out there in the night. Vampires, werewolves, ghosts. Our 4 players will step once again into the role of a coterie of vampires, which is their word for party, just as storyteller is their word for DM, because they want to, not use those tired old D&D terms. Carving out their place in the night. Our player coterie works for the Camarilla, which is a sort of secret vampire government, shall we say. The Camarilla is set up in a city led by a prince, which is a gender-neutral term for vampires. The prince and her court keep the vampires, or kindred as they call themselves, in line for the sake of survival and safety. Their number one rule being the Masquerade. Keep hidden from mortals at all costs. If the mortals find out about the vampires, well, the mortals have insane amounts of military technology now. Flamethrowers were not a thing in the Dark Ages. They are now. Not a good idea for continued vampire survival to have their existence doxed, so to speak. Our game is set in Shadeport, a fictional city which could exist in any nation, really, or could exist in none of them. Shadeport's Camarilla is new and small, since 5 years ago all of the vampires in the city were driven out by a military operation, with little control over the city as a whole. Prince Juliet Hammersley and her Sheriff Mikhail work hard night by night to re-establish themselves as the city's greatest power. But they got a lot of work to do, and our coterie worked for them, doing some of that work on their behalf. In our last session, the coterie, minus Flynn, who, as we said before, was away, were visited by a Toreador, one of the kindred clans, by the name of Maximilian, a fashion designer and a really, really big fan of himself. Max was worried about the disappearance of a fellow Toreador, a socialite named Daisy LaRue, and he wanted the coterie to do sheriffy stuff, as Max put it, and find her. Why didn't he ask the sheriff himself? Because Max is a Toreador, which means he likes beauty, and the sheriff is a Nosferatu, which means he looks like Nosferatu, and so he doesn't want to be in the same room as the sheriff, because ew! Max is shallow. The coterie were assisted in this mission by another kindred, Sapphire, a blue-haired rock musician with high standing amongst the Anarchs of Shadeport. Anarchs being a separate faction from the Camarilla. Camarilla believe in order and control. Anarchs believe in freedom and taking care of yourself and your people. But the Camarilla is attempting to come to peaceful terms with the Anarchs right now because there's way more of them and it wouldn't go well if they picked a fight. Sapphire had stopped by just for personal reasons. She wanted to hire Joanne for some design work, but upon hearing about Maximilian's problem and seeing that the coterie was missing Flynn, she offered to tag along for the sake of diplomacy, and aware that Sapphire is quite competent and skilled, they agreed and had a fiery blue head instead of a fiery red head, as Sapphire put it. Just for once. The search led our party to a place called Grace Hospital, a private institution for Shadeport's upper class. Therein they found a sub-basement where a brainwashing operation appeared to be taking place in the name of Nathaniel, the kindred that is supposedly responsible for the horrible disaster from 5 years ago that drove all the vampires out. This cult of Nathaniel had been popping up around the city lately with creepy posters everywhere and dazed, confused people and kindred. The coterie confronted a doctor who seemed to be behind it, Dr. Emil Hansen. But he escaped after suggesting that Daisy wasn't there anymore. She had already finished her treatment. The coterie didn't find Daisy. But they did rescue a mortal. A mostly lucid mortal, unlike all of the others that were strapped to beds in the brainwashing thing. They were too far gone. But one fella did have enough of himself left to want to be rescued. And so, hopefully, he can provide some information about what the hell that was all about. With the doctor having gotten away and the rest of them beyond saving, the coterie left the hospital sub-basement, called it in to the sheriff and the prince. I believe Katia's words were, burn it all down. Perhaps not the hospital, but just the underground bit with all the horrors. And that basically sums it up. They were tired and a wee bit traumatized on account of the doctor's ability to mess with their minds, so I haven't quite done the debrief yet. But the real question, at least to my mind, is what was Flynn doing throughout all of this? Flynn wasn't around when Mr. Maximilian knocked upon their door to ask for help. I believe because Flynn had somewhere else to be. She had someone that she wanted to meet and talk to following the recent events for her at of 2 sessions past. Is that true?
Wanted is a bit of a strong term there, but she had to.
Mm-hmm.
She has a plan for dealing with Nathaniel.
Yes. The other Nathaniel, that is, at least as far as we can put together. There's the cult of Nathaniel, and then there's a businessman named Crimson, who Flynn knows as Nathaniel, and we're not quite sure how or if they connect just yet. But nonetheless, you don't really contact him. He tends to contact you, which indeed he did, through his right hand. You hesitate to say servant. You've met him a few times. His name is Salim. He is This very sort of rigid, military-bearing kind of fellow doesn't say much. Quite often when you've encountered Nathaniel Crimson, whoever he is, he's been alone, but occasionally Salim will call you on the phone or come and let you know some stuff, usually by sneaking into your house or knocking on the door politely, depending on whether you're there or not when he arrives. Neither of them seem to like waiting outside. They like just sitting comfortably on your armchair. You're not sure how you feel about that. Just irritated or creeped out?
Creeped out.
Okay,
Very
we're
creeped
going
out.
with full creeped out, okay. Yeah, they both do it. Crimson sort of takes a joy in it. Salim's just kind of, like, very matter-of-fact. Anyhow, you got a knock on your personal private door where you live alone, since you do have a room with everyone else, but you don't spend all of your time there. How much time would you say you spend there? Half and half?
Probably 60-40, like 60 in my own place.
Okay,
I like my space.
Okay. So you do keep a kind of notable distance, which perhaps the others would have noticed by now. Not socially, just, a lot of... You're not there a lot.
Yeah.
You're friendly enough, you're just not there a lot. Anyway. He directs you. He doesn't say that he's going with you or anything, but he gives you directions to... Well, you're not really sure what kind of building it is till you get there, but it seems like any other regular urban house. Like, it's not an apartment, it's, there's long lines of houses where they're all sort of connected to each other by townhouse, yeah. Just one of those. It looks old and creaky. It doesn't look like someone's living in there right now. Not completely dilapidated, abandoned, but it just looks like he found an empty indoor space and put himself there and waited for you. That's sort of the impression you get.
Fair.
Do you just go to this place and knock on the door and see what happens, or do you take any steps before you head to this meeting?
I put the ring that I was given in an envelope with a message in it, pretty much just saying, if you truly believe Nathaniel, then this ring shouldn't do anything, so put it up, kind of thing. Like,
is that a message to yourself?
Message to myself, yeah, so that if he deepens the bond while I'm there and I get back and I see the ring, I'll also see the message saying that, if you truly believe that everything Nathaniel says, you truly, believe what he stands for, then this ring shouldn't change your mind. It shouldn't change your mindset, so there's no harm, no foul in putting it on. Okay.
So, to remind everybody, this ring was given to you, and you have used it before, and you know that it does what it was said to do. It strengthens your mind against the bond of blood that Nathaniel has over you. It doesn't release you of it, but it takes you one step back from total adoration, servitude, inability to think for yourself. It's helpful. Anyhow, as you knock, you just hear a jovial, "Please, come on in. I'd get up, but, I'm already comfortable."
She's gonna make her way in. She's gonna try and look quite confident, but she's terrified.
Oh, of course. He is... You find him in a living room. He's not sat at a table or looking regal. He's, in fact, quite relaxed on an armchair, and he gestures to you. There's two other armchairs and a full couch. He doesn't particularly care. He says, "Please, sit down." And you don't feel like that was a command. You just feel like that was courtesy. Oh, well, you know that was courtesy because your blood doesn't start pushing you towards a seat.
I'll perch on the edge of the couch, actually. More space.
Yeah. He smiles, and as usual, he asks for a report on the things that have happened lately, and we don't really need to do a full recap of Session 5, but you essentially tell him about the encounter with the Anarchs and with Church, and the fact that there is an Elysium taking place. You mention that you were tasked with securing a venue for it, and that was why you were at that rich man's party, that it was successful, that it was, the Elysium will be happening in a fair few weeks. He expresses interest at that, makes a comment about how he would like an invite. He's not asking you to arrange that, he's just saying, wonder if I can get an invite to that. And then, as you wind around to the later parts of the evening, we'll go back into playing it out, because you mention, per your compulsion to tell him what happened, that you were invited by Osiris, the rich man, to ask for, personal benefits, as well as just the Elysium, because you impressed him. And, Nathaniel just quietly asks, I see. Did you take him up on that offer? What did you ask for? So, do you attempt to resist the urge to tell him about how you asked Osiris for help against a blood bond?
I don't.
No?
In fact, I outright tell him. I say, look, I asked for help to break the bond in some way, and then I say, ever since it was formed, I've been looking for a way out of it. Been looking for, a powerful person to help me, or some way to sort of navigate around it. And it occurred to me that perhaps I was looking everywhere that I shouldn't, and I could just simply appeal to you, because you fit all those criteria of a powerful vampire or powerful kindred.
Flattery may get you some places, dear, but let's be a bit more direct. So what was the plan? Out of curiosity, say you found someone who
I was
severed
given
our
an
connection. What would you do next? What would you do with me? Run? Fight?
Although I have recently perhaps found a more appealing solution than running. I'm not quite as young as the other people in the coterie. I perhaps need to start looking for the long term and not the short term. And I thought to make you an offer.
I do respect a forward thinker, and I'm always happy to hear offers.
I will admit that I am not the most powerful kindred out there, but I'm also not the weakest. Within scant years of being turned, I killed my sire. I drained him, and I gained his power.
I know that.
I know. But I'm a capable asset, and I could be more. And I could be more working for you rather than always looking for a way to subvert what you're asking. If I can know the direction you're working in, short or long term, knowing some of sort of what's behind the why behind what you're doing, I can work with you instead of simply for you. In return, you'd get a willing apprentice rather than a pawn that you have to always watch and keep under your control.
Let me set you at ease to begin with. I like to think everything is negotiable. A blood bond included. I will admit, it's not my usual style to enforce such a thing upon a person. There are reasons why I went for it this time, but I do find it a little distasteful. So,
you're not the only one.
You want to know what I'm after? You offer willing support and loyalty. But here's the tough part, a little catch-22 paradox, if you will. You're not that strongly tied to me right now. You're, in fact, well overdue for a sip. But there is some of it there, especially while I'm in front of you. When it goes away, Neither you nor I can be sure that that sentiment stays. Neither you nor I can be sure that you won't immediately realize that in fact you must flee.
It's a possibility, but when everything's laid out on the table, you are my best option.
I do appreciate you see sense there. I appreciate you have questions. We can start with some of the answers, if that's what you'd like. I mentioned I find the bond distasteful. You're probably wondering why I would opt to it. Well, in a word, it was necessary to get you here in the first place. It was simple, leverage. Would you really have come to Shadeport any other way? A well-dressed stranger turns up out of the night, offers you a job, but there's a catch. You have to travel to the scariest city in the world in order to do it. I mean, I could have abducted someone close to you, of course, but that's even more distasteful. I don't like that kind of conduct at all. Face your issues head on. Deal with the person, not the person's people. Perhaps.
I can't say that I would have come for multiple reasons. But now that I'm here, I might as well make the best of it, right?
Yeah, you have ties here now. Reasons to stay, a stable reputation, a stable position in the court. But you might still flee with your mind altered in such a way to do so. Well, restored, unaltered, shall we say. If I can have your loyalty without my blood, then I see no problem with that. However, I wouldn't think simply snapping it would do you or me any good. That sort of rough shock might very well send you in the other direction. As I say, the bond does weaken with time. If you simply don't drink, then your faculties will return piece by piece, and perhaps we'll see just how much of this you mean.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I would like to be rid of it immediately, but
I'm sure you would.
I didn't expect it either.
No. As to the question of what I want, what I'm after. I suppose the question you're really trying to understand is, how do I match up to the figure that is talked about from 5 years ago? The man who doomed the city. The man who what? Snuck up behind a prince, stabbed them in the back, said, "I'm the prince now, everybody listen to me!" And naturally, half the people in the city said, "No, fuck you," and then there was a big war and everybody died. Seems like a bit of a fool to me. I wouldn't follow him.
Is he you?
The answer is yes and no. But I can't say exactly what I mean right now. Trust me. It'll make sense. So what do I want today? Do I want to supplant Prince Juliet and rule the Camarilla? Maybe. Do I want to be a great god king of Shadeport, independent and strong? Not exactly. There is a preparation I must make before I can tell you exactly what it is that I'm doing here. Can't be tonight. But I'm willing to show you. Let me ask you something. Perhaps you've heard of this from your Malkavian associates, the prince, or one of the others. Have they told you of a presence, a voice, perhaps a force of will, a soul that lurks within this city.
Have they?
I believe you have seen Nulai and Joanne kind of talk about here in songs, but I don't know if they've fully gone into what it means. Juliet has certainly only really talked about it with the Malkavians.
Yeah, I'll just relate. They hear songs. The two of them hear songs.
Mm.
I don't know about a force or a presence, but there's music.
Malkavians tend to perceive it in a very specific way. Well, I can tell you that they're not imagining things. There is something in this place. And as best as I can tell, it wants things. Sometimes very intently. Most recently, it decided it wanted you. In Shadeport. And it decided to tell me that. Oh, it did it very cleverly. I didn't realize I was being used until I'd already gotten the cogs in motion, and away you were coming. But I imagine similar things brought your colleagues across. Brought Nulai by boat. Compelled your prince to turn a child.
Malkavian then?
Am I Malkavian? No. As a gesture. Catch the light. He points to the light switch, which is within your reach while you're sitting. Turn it off.
I'll flick it off.
He's sitting in the armchair. He raises his hands. He sort of fades where he's sitting into a murky cloud of darkness. You're looking at him and he just... It's not a cloud of mist and smoke. It's like he just sort of melds with the shadow. Blips out. And not long after that, you hear a voice to your left. I am of the clan that does things like this. And you look and you see that he's on another armchair, sitting there just as calmly as he was before. You can turn the light back on if you like.
I do. The dark is now infinitely more scary.
You are knowledgeable enough to know that basically he's said that he's a La Sombra, which is kind of creepy, because they are traditionally associated with the Sabbat, who are the not-so-good group of vampires. They're the, we are better than the people that breathe, and we should be running every nation in the world like, food camps, and just have the people as basically cows. They're not very successful, but it's not a good first impression.
You don't strike me as a typical La Sombra.
I don't think we have those anymore. Well, I know you'd like to be free right now, but the best I can give you is a slow fade. It really won't take much more than a month or two now. And that second month, you won't hardly even feel it. It'll creep in around the corners of your mind, perhaps. You'll have trouble when you're directly in my presence, but if you like, I'll show trust. I'll even deliver you my words via intermediary. And then when it's finally gone, and you'll know when the bond is gone, then we'll see each other again, and we'll see if you're still in the mood for getting to work.
That seems overly fair.
But we will see each other again one time very soon, once my preparations are ready, and I can give you a better insight. Just keep an open mind. And listen out. Listen to what your Malkavian friends say about this force of will. He looks like he wants to say more, but he kind of stops. Well, the night is young, and there is something you could do for me immediately. That was not a question.
No.
I need a driver. I have an associate arriving in Shadeport tonight. There's a car outside. Take it, go to the airport, pick them up. You'll find one of those lovely little cards that people hold up at airports with names on them. I always thought that was a nice, cute little touch, so you're going to use one of them. My friend will recognize you. Take them wherever they wish to go.
Of course.
And that is all.
Keys in the car?
No, I expect you to break in. Of course, dear.
I'll stand up and sort of before I'm distinctly dismissed, I will leave.
He chuckles and he says, "Goodbye, then."
See?
You, feel the light turn off behind you as you exit the house.
I feel like I would shiver.
He sort of remains alone in the darkness. It's not a particularly eventful trip. You get to the airport just fine. The car, by the way, is a taxi. So you go the taxi route and you sort of stand there, I guess, with this card. The card reads, the word is Donnelly, and people are confused, but they kind of leave the taxi driver with a name on it alone. Takes a little while, but eventually... Let's just change the music around for this. Eventually out the front comes a curious figure, dragging one of those, like, rolling suitcases, not very much, along. She looks like a frail older lady, thin, maybe 50s, 60s, even 70s, you're not sure. Like, very, very slim. Shoulder-length dark hair, pair of glasses, very, serious, focused face. She walks up. "Would you be my driver, then?"
You are Donnelly, then, yes?
Donnelly? Close enough.
I'll open the boot of the car, but I'll carefully have a quick look in the boot just to make sure there's nothing or nobody in there first.
There are 17 No. The boot is empty. It smells clean. It's fine.
I'll offer to lift her case into the boot, yes?
Thank you.
And do the driver thing and open the door at the back for her to get in.
How very kind. She, sits in, closes the door, doesn't really say much.
Where to?
She gives the name of a hotel. You're aware of it, you've been here long enough. She says, "That's where I'm staying."
I just pull out and take her.
You do not attempt to talk to her in any way unless she talks to you?
I do see. Was your trip satisfactory?
I spent most of it asleep, so better than could have been expected.
Do you plan to stay in Shadeport long?
The business will take as long as it takes.
I really don't have anything else. I'm too frightened to ask her too many questions because
she's looking at you. She's looking at you very... Like, you see her in the rearview mirror. She's just...
Is there something the matter? Or something you'd like to ask?
What's your opinion of sunrises, dearie?
I miss them.
I'm going to ask you something. And don't worry if the answer is no. I'm not expecting a hit. Do you know anything about, or do you happen to know a kindred named Arkady Volkov?
I do not, sorry.
Don't worry, dearie. I ask that question of every bloodsucker I meet.
Do I get the impression that she is a kindred? Or not?
She seems to be breathing. You know that the blush of life can do that. Considering how openly she just spoke, you could ask.
I will. I take it from your tone that, and your use of the word bloodsucker, that you're not a fan or a kindred yourself.
I breathe in, I breathe out, I eat food, and I stare at the sun whenever I wish. Though I've been told it's hell on the eyes. I wouldn't say I'm not a fan, however. Your kind are very interesting.
So are yours.
That said, if you do try to bite me, things will not go well for you.
I'm not likely to take that action.
Good. She says nothing else as you deliver her to her hotel. She gets out.
I help her with bags.
Of course, she is polite and grateful, but she gets it back into the rolling mode and does not particularly want you to enter the hotel with her. You get just a distinct impression of authority, but you don't she's immortal, but you don't at the same time feel the usual do you attempt to subtly awe or daunt at any point to see if it does anything?
I might have, except I'm still quite daunted myself from Nathaniel. So I'm being good girl for him.
Okay. Nothing happens then. It's weird. Normally just mortals around kindred in general, even without the use of any powers, you feel a kind of innate sense of safety and superiority. You just kind of don't here. You feel like you're, especially with you having been through a lot and your connection to humanity having wavered a little bit, you're used to feeling different, feeling superior in a way that you don't quite like, but you do know is there. You feel like you're on even footing with her, but it doesn't give off any impression of being a kindred, and indeed says she isn't. And she walks away, and that's that.
It occurs to me that I now have a taxi that I don't know what to do with.
What do you do with it?
Sell it. I could just keep driving the taxi all night and keep collecting fares.
Yeah, this just could be a new part-time job. You could take it home with you. You were not... Whenever Nathaniel gives you something to do and he gives you something to go along with it, usually sometimes it disappears after you've used it, but you're not generally instructed to go put it somewhere, whether it's a vehicle or whatever else, usually a vehicle. Like there was that van from the very beginning that probably you kept around for a while and then one day it wasn't there.
I guess I'll just drive the taxi home.
Yeah.
What else am I going to do?
Taxi driver takes themselves home at the end of the day. It's perfectly acceptable. Okay. And that is what Flynn was up to. A very intimidating evening for poor Flynn. But the following evening, you would probably get word that some things happened with your friends. And when
it's out on all the fun.
Yeah, and when they go together to Juliet's mansion to check in and talk about what happened and think about debriefs and next steps and such, you would come with them, I assume.
Yeah, I would.
Sounds like the sensible thing to do if you want to have anything to do in the next scene. All right. So, you guys left your mortal rescue Jake in the hands of Juliet and her staff. From what you could tell, they were just offering him a lovely stay in a really well-to-do mansion. He was just like, okay. Can I see my family soon? Oh, okay, right. That was the end of what you saw of him. As you arrive the next day, you'll be convening in the waiting room there as usual, or the guest waiting room, for Juliet and whoever is with her today to appear. Does anybody say anything to anyone else, especially when Flynn gets here before the NPCs show up? Now that everyone's gathered.
Does everyone look alright when I meet them?
I don't think anyone took physical damage. I just think everyone was a bit brain harrowed. Nulai?
Should be all right.
Okay. You've recovered from the everyone around me is monsters?
I think it only took a few moments there to realize that mind can be fucky.
Just to, because I don't know that you watched that part, Raptor, Flynn, the doctor used some kind of eye trick on them that didn't affect Joanne, because he couldn't see Joanne, but Katia and Nulai were both basically hallucinating that everybody around them was like mutating into a horrible death creature, and so they managed to figure out what was going on before they attacked each other, but that was not great.
Creepy.
Mm-hmm. Yep, creepy hospital episode. Gotta have some sort of creepiness in it.
I would probably pull Flynn to one side because I'm quite fond of Flynn, and I'd be like, yeah, so you missed out on some wild adventures. Hope you're okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. You guys alright?
Well,
what happened?
Yeah, all right, yes. Some of us a little more worse for wear. Let's just say we had our own Silent Hill Hospital adventure, and I think we actually made it out really fortunate at the end of the day.
I miss out on all the fun.
You do! I was thinking of all the memes you could text to Mikhail. You would have had a blast.
I would have. He's gonna let me get a cat.
If we're getting cats, I'm in.
Yeah.
Just
cats are everyone.
Yes.
As long as you guys are okay.
All the cats.
Shall we assume that rather than hash it out, there was like a general telling Flynn of... Well, I guess that'll happen when the others get in and you fully explain it to Juliet and Mikhail.
Yeah.
As they do, you see 4 people enter along with the usual staff folk. You see Juliet, Mikhail, Gwendolyn, the Herald, and Jake the Mortal. Not to be confused with Jake the dog. See, that's a shame. That's a shame we didn't have, because we could have had Flynn the Vampire and Jake the Human. Anyway, that would have been quite an adventurous time. So they all enter. Jake's looking around like, what is... Okay, so... I'm glad that you guys saved me and all, but... And I mean, nice house, but... Why do I feel like I'm... You know, like on one of those, like, monster fighting TV shows here?
Maybe you watch too much Netflix.
There's no such thing.
I see.
Juliet smiles patiently and says that we need to discuss some things, Jake, but we thank you for your patience. We're going to have some questions shortly as to what you went through, and then, by all means, you can go home and let your family know that you're all right. Thank you again. We appreciate that you've given us this time. Hey, you saved my life. Least I can do. He sort of confusedly walks out, escorted by one of the servants to where he cannot hear the vampire business. Juliet does her usual looking up and down of everybody, not in a judgy way, but in just like an assessment of injury and mental fortitude, perhaps, the way you're carrying yourselves. She seems satisfied, and that everyone seems alright. She says, so, do you think this was the cult's entire brainwashing operation, or do you think this is merely tip of an iceberg sort of scenario?
I think it was a training facility, from their point of view. I think there's probably more to their operation.
Yeah. Stage 1 of many kind of feel, hey?
We could have the hospitals in the city searched, but if they are intelligent, whatever other facilities they have, each one will be in a different kind of setup and location. That is Mikhail, if you could not tell. Juliet just suddenly becomes Russian. No. You go through like the finer details of everything that happened, mentioning that Daisy was not located and that the sentiment given was that she'd completed her training, whatever the hell that means, and that the doctor got away by turning into mist. And Juliet pulls you up on that and says, now, do you say that he vanished into dark shadows, or that he turned into like a lighter gray, cloudy mist? How bright was it?
It looked like a fog bank.
One of your kind, then. He points to Katya. Or possibly ministry. If he turned into an animal, then we'd be able to narrow it down further. Your kind, of course, prefer wolves, lions, apparently. Whereas the ministry prefers snakes, smaller, faster creatures. But nonetheless, turning into mist is a part of that school of power, so... Ministry definitely seems like the way to go. Whether he is the master of this cult, hiding behind the name Nathaniel, or whether there is a greater Nathaniel lurking behind him, is my first question, and the one I'd like to know most.
I didn't get the impression that he was a head honcho, if that's what you mean.
Well, that's good and bad.
It certainly does mean that whatever the cult is, it's not entirely based on a deranged scientist kind of thing, which means there may be more organization to it than we think.
So the doctor seemed to have his wits about him. He was calm, in control. Not like what Melvin, the
Perhaps. Oh, definitely not like Melvin.
No.
But he was perhaps a little too strategic. Like there was more to lose if he lost that fight than he cared to.
He definitely chose the coward's way out, from what you tell me. First hint of a knife to his throat, and poof, away he goes and abandons his whole operation. Interesting that he did not have...
4 versus 1.
True. Interesting that he did not have friends, staff, others running it.
Could that mean that he is low on the food chain then? That there's not a lot of resources invested in whatever his role is in the whole thing?
That, or perhaps we caught him on an off night. Perhaps they did not feel they needed security because all of the people they had down there were barely capable of getting themselves moving. Perhaps our friend can
Also a
answer
possibility.
the logistics of this. If we are all well prepared to not say anything that we shouldn't, his memory will be, of course, dealt with at the end of this, but better not leave any strong impressions that might break through. We are all just concerned citizens who would like to get to the bottom of this, working together, kind of like a Scooby Gang, out of the kindness of our hearts.
Are there snacks?
You
I
know,
was about to say the same thing.
if you're lucky. You just, I didn't mention it, but, because you've seen him do it before, but when Jake was in the room, Mikhail looks like Mikhail now, but when Jake was in the room before, and as he comes back in now, Mikhail does that thing where he suddenly just looks very boring. He just, like, his face changes and he looks like a... The impression that you get, Joanne, because you're a bit familiar with this power, is that he's not choosing what he looks like. It's like a camouflage thing. It makes you blend in with the
Like
crowd.
a hologram?
Yeah, so right now, he kind of looks like one of Juliet's people. He kind of... He's not wearing their exact uniform, but he's wearing something similar. It's an ability where if you're walking down a central business district street, you might turn into a businessman in a suit. If you're walking through a junkyard, you might turn into a guy with a hard hat and a high-vis vest, you know? Like, it's...
So like an aggregate of the area's normality, sort of.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
You know when they have thieves that, like, steal from a shop by looking like maintenance people? It's like that without having to change. And also, yeah, his face just turns
That's a
into
cool skill.
Barry McBoring dude. It's different every time. He doesn't have like a set thing. He has mentioned it to you because you're interested, because it's a skill you might develop later if you take it that way. Yeah, it's not a fine level of control. Anyway, so Jake comes back in. Juliet basically just asks him to relate how he got there and what happened, and then if you have questions based on what he says, then ask them once I finish his little... Okay, so just picture the Ace Attorney thing. Jake's testimony. Alright. So, you know, I'll admit it, I live in a shithole. You've probably heard of it. The neighborhood's called Shempton, but everybody calls it Shankton because that's what you're going to get if you go there at night. So when I saw advertising for Neighborhood Watch, sort of strike back at crime, get the boys together and fight against these bastards that go around ruining our city, I thought it was a good idea. It seemed to be just kind of a southeast thing. Now, he's the neighborhood he mentioned is in southeast Shadeport, which not the rich area. It's fairly, loose connection of neighborhoods, far away from where the Anarchs live, so the cult doesn't have anyone stopping them. And he says that, the meeting wasn't for his neighborhood, it was for, like, the larger area, a whole lot of them coming together to, patrol the southeast was the idea. He says, the meeting started out normal. We were talking about the different gangs and the different, drug groups that go around the place, all of the local menaces, I guess you could say. But then they started talking more and more about, like, faith. They were saying that in order to clean these streets up, we need to believe in a higher power. Now, I thought that was just going to be the usual Jesus shit. It's not my thing, but I'll deal with it for a good cause, You know what they say, it's not Jesus himself, it's his fan club. Anyway. But then they pivoted. They stopped saying Jesus. Well, they didn't say Jesus. All they said was Nathaniel. I don't know who the fuck that is, but apparently he's bigger than Jesus, so I guess he plays some pretty good music. I wasn't interested in joining no cult, and this was seeming decidedly cultward. So I got up, walked out, and I thought there was just going to be like a spotlight on my head as I did so, saying, "You're free to leave at any time, but do you mind telling us why?" But no, that didn't happen. They just let me go. Until I was walking to my car. And then there was a crack. Didn't know what it was at first. It was just a loud crack. Then I realized that I couldn't see anymore, and I think it might have been my head. And I woke up in the damn hospital. With a poster above my head, and... It was like... I wasn't there for that long, at least it's hard to tell, really. I think that's maybe why you got me out of there. I hope it was only less than a day or so. But they strap you in so that you're forced to just stare at this poster. And for a while, there's nothing. But then the face on the poster starts to move. You know, like, you ever seen those movies with the wizards?
Lord of the Rings?
No.
Harry Potter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have pictures, but the pictures are, like, alive. It's kind of like that, except instead of wholesome, haha, I'm a picture and I'm alive, ain't that cute, it was kind of fucked up shit. Like, the world is gonna end. You have no hope but to trust in Nathaniel. And at first, the poster looked like, the lady that was on there. You remember, of course, that every poster seems to have a different person. But then it just got brighter. Like, light pouring out of her face, out of her shoulders. And then it was like she stepped out of the poster, but at that point she was just glowing. I could barely make her out anymore. And she kept talking all this shit. And at this point, I had to know, they'd given me something. I was on something, right? Surely. So I just tried to block it out, squinted, shut my eyes. It happened a few times. She'd do her speech. Talk about how we need to work together. I need your help. Nathaniel needs your help. The city has cancer. It has a tumor that we have to cut out. It was one of the down times, like between those events, I suppose, that I saw you guys. I hope that fucking helps.
The lady on the poster.
Yeah.
Were there anything that stood out about like her facial features? Was she tall? Was she?
I mean, she was a poster. By the time when she'd step out of the poster, she was taller than anybody should be. But she wasn't the woman by the time she did that. It always started the same way. She'd slowly start to glow. When she was fully glowy, she'd step out. And then she'd fade away after a while, and the poster would be normal again. Particularly the poster that he had. Yeah, I mean, he describes her. She doesn't sound like anybody you know. But you've also seen a good dozen variants. You've seen that particular poster before. You saw it when you were there. So, like, the way he describes her is similar. Like, he doesn't seem to describe anything that you yourself did not see in that poster when you were in his room.
What does her voice sound like when she's out?
Calming, kinda. That was the weird thing. She was saying fucked up shit, but she said it in this kind of polite, motherly sort of voice. No offense, she points to Juliet. It wasn't your voice, but that same kind of, everything's gonna be alright, I'm in charge, listen to me. Sorry. Juliet raises an eyebrow, but does not comment.
Interesting.
So this cult meeting, if we can call that,
Yeah.
was everyone else in there on board? Just, like, no questions asked?
I mean, I doubt it. Like, there was murmuring, and I was looking around at a few people here, and they looked as confused as me, but I didn't get a good look, but when we were making our way out of there, some of those folks, it was them. I think they nabbed all of us. I don't know. But you'd think...
When you say we, you mean the people who were murmuring or the whole crowd? You know, were you leaving with the others, or were you...
Possibly.
Were you and a couple?
I mean, I recognize maybe 2 or 3 faces. There were a good... At the meeting, there are, I want to say, maybe 30 people sitting there listening. It wasn't huge. And there were 2 people who were speaking. They were cheery, clean-cut types. They just seemed like someone's mom and someone's dad. I think their names were Marcy and Greg.
Wow. It's generic.
Yeah. Kind of like Jake. Hey, I like my name!
We can't all choose our names.
Yeah, we can't all have such a cool name as Mikhail.
Sure you can. You just need to beat me in a fight, and I will relinquish it to you forever.
Like the Josh fights?
Yes,
But
only with no
instead
hope
of-
of winning for you.
Mikhail would suit me, hey? Set a date, set a time. Let's go.
Now he jumps. No, he does not do that. Mikhail has some honor. Anyway, yeah. So he describes them both. The 2 organizers. They were just He said he's not sure if that were they didn't give surnames or anything. They was just Marcy and Greg, and they just were that very polite. That their voices were not as like compelling as the one in the poster, and it was definitely not them. He also never
Was
really.
This meeting?
He never saw the doctor, by the way. The first time he saw the doctor with the beard was when you saw him. He's not sure if he was injected with stuff or not. He woke up strapped to the table and. Sorry, not the table. Strapped to the bed, staring at the poster, and he stayed there until you appeared.
Does he have
Was
any like
the
injection?
meeting
Sorry.
He
at the
does
hospital?
not. If like he was with permission, they sort of looked at him and they didn't find any obvious punctures. What was Joanne asking?
Was the meeting that he attended, was it in the same area as the hospital? Because the hospital sounds like it's in a very posh area, and he's like not from the Moose. So
Yeah, the
how did he end
the
up
meeting
there?
hall. The meeting hall was in, of course, southeast with the poor folk, basically. He can give you the name of the meeting hall, and it can be looked into. It's just a sort of a public hall where people can host events and gatherings and town hall sort of thing, but in a city. It was Southeast Neighborhood Watch. It wasn't they'd said that they were workshopping the name of their little movement and that this was the first big step towards putting something together. They advertised it like it was this, basically this couple, whether they were a couple or whether they were 2 friends, were wanting to clean up the city, and this was their first step, and then once they'd got everyone sat down, the weirds began to happen. Of course, while he only saw the 2 organizers, he doesn't know how 2 organizers managed to kidnap a whole bunch of people. But he's not certain. He didn't see the others at the meeting get taken. He just recognized maybe 2 of them at the hospital. He also recognized some people in that crowd at the hospital that weren't necessarily from his meeting, so he doesn't know if they took the whole group.
Sounds like
If it's a rentable hall, we could probably check records and see if there's anything useful.
Mm-hmm.
sounds like a multi-level marketing campaign.
Yes.
Nathaniel's pyramid scheme.
They would have needed a
And
big
everyone
vehicle.
was.
Sorry. To transport these people, either like a bus or a truck or something big, substantial.
It's certainly a group that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
There's resources.
yeah, three people you've identified, but probably more for logistic reasons. Obviously, you can't ask Jake if Marcy or Greg look like vampires, so that's out. You could try it subtly, but...
Ask, look, did they look like they had taken something? Were they pale and sweating, or?
No. No, they looked really, those squeaky clean types, like... I mean, I don't like crime, I don't want to
Marcy
clean
and
up the
Greg
street
kinda said it
too,
all.
but... The sort of people who think damn is a swear word.
Ew. Okay.
Like I said, I thought they were Jesus people.
Well, that's not far off from a cult.
Controversial, I like it. Anything else?
I can't think of anything else to ask him now.
That is fine by me. I really want to go home.
Are you sure you'll be safe home if everybody from your neighborhood was taken?
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Do you maybe have a friend or a family
man.
member you could?
He didn't everyone from his neighborhood is a stretch. He said there were good 20 to 30 people at the meeting. He would have to go home and look to see how many got taken, but they weren't all the people from his neighborhood. There was a few neighborhoods in the southeast of Shadeport people from, so he recognized maybe 25% of the people at the meeting. And he says that he'd be happy to check in with them and see if they're okay. As for whether he thinks he'd be safe, I think he's just sort of too tired and confused to...
Flynn is going to give him her number and say, look, if you see anybody that was at that meeting, if you see them out and about and they don't seem to be, quite on the level, just give us a call.
Just call Ghostbusters.
It's called Ghostbusters.
So you guys are like scientists?
We're just, we're part of the community too.
Except one of you's a janitor? Which one's the janitor?
We take turns.
Democracy at work, I see. Okay, yeah, if that's all.
One more question. Just to reiterate, how did you find out about this cult meeting? Well, you thought it was a neighborhood watch, but were there flyers, or did you find it through internet, or how exactly did you hear about this?
Yeah, Facebook group.
It's always the Facebook.
That's how they get you.
He gives you the name of the Facebook group, but he points out that it's like I'm not a super expert on Facebook settings, but it's like that semi-private thing where you'd have to be accepted. You can like request to join with your Facebook, but you'd have to be accepted.
Does it show how many members?
If you get accepted, he says he can he doesn't have his. They took his phone, but actually, yeah, he asked Juliet offers to give him a laptop to use. He logs in, and he goes, I'm not seeing it. It's weird. Types the name into the search bar. I think they might have canned it. Well, considering they abducted people who went there, I mean, certainly not a bad idea. Sorry, guys.
Leaving traces.
Unless you know how to hack your way into deleted Facebook stuff.
I'm not smart enough for that.
Well, anyway, I can, keep an eye out and let you know what I learn about my neighborhood, and, I hope I don't get taken again.
Good luck with it.
As he goes away, Mikhail re-uglifies himself, essentially, and says, we'll keep an eye on the man. You don't need to worry about being bodyguards. He won't get taken again. Best that he does not know that he is being watched.
Fair.
Alright.
So
I have a
you've got-
story to share if everybody would like to gather around the campfire that doesn't exist.
Can we
Be
have
my
marshmallows?
guest.
Unless
we
anybody
have
else has
marshmallows?
something to say. Flynn, what were you doing?
I just think, can we have marshmallows or someone who's eaten marshmallows?
Not inside my house, thank you. Fine, fine. Well, I had an encounter with our favorite businessman in the terrible hat. Mr. Crimson.
Crimson?
Hmm. Do you recall that time that he decided to fuck with your mind, Joanne? That was a trick question, given he made you forget it.
I mean, he's bad vibes. So that would not surprise me.
He approached me in the middle of the night, and as he mentions this, Flynn, you sort of mentally put together that pretty much the second you left Nathaniel to go and pick up his associate, he would have left you and been on his way to do whatever the hell this was. So just mentally the time stamp of that. How do you react visibly at all when Mikhail brings this up?
I feel like in the last few months or the time I've been here, I've gotten very good at not reacting.
Yes, good. Okay, but yeah, he explains, he approached me out of nowhere. I was just on the street taking care of some things. And, as to how he found me, I don't know. He was quite alone. He wasn't expecting me to, I think, remember and question the encounter, so... Julia's looking at him very carefully, like, what happened? Well, it wasn't actually that bad, nothing inherently treasonous. He asked me quite clearly if I would be so kind as to strongly encourage, when the situation came up, that he, Mr. Walter Crimson, be, without question, given a cordial invitation to the Elysium coming up. He said so while his eyes glowed, and I was then to forget that he'd asked, and to treat it as though it was my own natural idea that I just happen to think he's a lovely guy who deserves to come along to our big party, as he put it.
Seems a bit of an extreme way to get an invite.
And you're saying this did not work? No, completely failed, as it tends to. Then he would know it failed. Oh no, no. Juliet looks very confused, and Nula, you kind of think you kind of think you're seeing what question is in her eyes. Whenever you've used mesmerize, you have felt it. You have felt your mind pushing against theirs, opening and placing an idea. It's like, it's not just, you say the words and they happen. It is a metaphysical kind of process. I can't recall if you have properly failed just because you haven't really tried it on someone you shouldn't necessarily, but you feel as though if you were to fail, it would very likely feel quite different and it would be inherently obvious.
Yeah, the only time Nula has failed it is when he was trying to do it on Katya, but that failed for different reasons.
Yeah, you were unable to reach her, and you knew that, you felt that. So you're with Juliet on this. You feel as though if Mikhail Crimson would know full well what had happened and that it didn't work. Which Juliet mentions. He said, "You don't practice this yourself. It's not a Nosferatu thing. We do know we can feel it when it happens. Can you indeed, my prince? Okay. Tell me to do a handstand. She does. He looks at her, thinks about it. Normally, I would do whatever my prince tells me, but for the sake of proving a point, no. She is uncharacteristically... But what?
Maybe Michaela's broken.
Could we turn him off and on again? Well,
Someone tried that once.
Or
It turned
did
me
I
into
ask?
this.
Hey, if you want to try and turn on Michaela, it's your problem.
You are going to tell me how that works. Can I tell you without telling everybody else? I'm quite fond of it and proud of it. Fine.
What if we promise not to tell?
No.
Not even a little bit?
Can we bribe
hit
you with
$7 million and a bucket of blood.
How about $10 a button and a bottle of vodka?
No. So, but you could see the thought. You could see the hesitation. Anyway. Juliet is perhaps running out of patience for frivolity at this point, and she says, right, well, in other news, the Elysium is in fact coming up. Now, at this point, I think I did mention that Gwendolyn was around as well. She hasn't really been super involved in the conversation. You know that she is there at the mansion, but she's sort of just politely been keeping her distance. She is flagged over by Juliet at this point, who says this is why she's here. I did invite you here for more than just a debrief. This is not a mission per se. In fact, it's not really mine. Perhaps you should explain, Herald. Yes, of course. Thank you, my prince. I would very humbly wish for your assistance from the four of you, if you do not mind, in helping me deal with a bit of a workload over the next few weeks leading towards this big event. Yes? Very simple. As Herald, I am officially responsible with making sure that everybody on the list of kindred in Shadeport whom we aren't, considering a criminal, such as this Dr. Hansen fellow, gets their invitation promptly and with all of our diplomatic gusto. This is a long list, and several of the kindred on this list are perhaps going to take a bit more talking to than usual. Because of this, I thought it might be helpful if I were to delegate. There are three people in particular that I wouldn't mind you meeting with and delivering their invitation while I take care of the many, 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 many others. She sort of looks for a nod of assent from someone before she continues. It doesn't have to be enthusiastic.
Flynn shrugs.
Very good, very good. She hands you three really fancy-looking large envelopes, and she does not necessarily say anything as she lets you look at them and the words written on them. There are three names. Two of them you recognize and one you don't. Sorry, I just thought it was let's all go sideways together time.
Oh, snap.
I'm sorry. It's fine, it's fine. It's the first time it's happened.
Sorry.
Well, I didn't turn the right way. I got my mirrored mixed up, so... that's fine.
Am I still sideways?
You unfortunately are.
What the heck? Discord.
Boom!
Oh.
You are fixed. Well done. Alright,
Oh, that's weird.
so you look at the envelopes, two names you recognize in flowy, entirely too extravagant handwriting. You recognize Maximilian, the Toreador, who you still have an unfinished mission for. You see Theodore Church. That's a very important one, and you're surprised that this has been delegated to you. But then again, you have met him before. And then you see one that is simply labelled Selena.
That name sounds familiar.
Not to you.
Was that the name of the woman?
Flynn has heard that name before. The rest of you have not.
Yeah. The woman that might have been able to help me with the blood bond?
She was described as a powerful Tremere who is discreet and trustworthy, which... a discreet and trustworthy kindred seems like a spectacle to put in a museum, but sure. So you know who she is, but the others necessarily wouldn't. Do you just take these envelopes, say sure, or do you question Gwendolyn a little?
Why these and not the others?
I would ask where we find this Selena, because that's the name that I don't recognize.
Of course. Flynn gets her question in first. Well, I figured it would be best, of course, for you to deal with kindred that you have, of course, met before. I believe Mr. Million has been acquainted with you very recently, and in the case of Mr. Church, that entire business, I would first, of course, have to meet, I believe his name is Flanagan, and then, look, it would be easier for the official introductions as far as the Anarchs are concerned to take place at the Elysium, and for the foreseeable future, those of you whom are best acquainted with him and his cohorts are the ones to take care of the diplomacy on that front.
And this last one, Selena, we don't know her.
Ah. Well, how can I put this delicately? Selena is to the Tremere what Million is to the Toreador in Shadeport at the minute. As you know, the Tremere are my clan, and suffice to say there are reasons which would benefit all of us if I were not the one to conduct the business in that direction.
She doesn't like you then.
Fucking hates her! Thank you, Mikhail.
I'd like to meet this Selena.
I'm
take
glad
me with
someone does.
I'll join you, would you?
She doesn't care how you go about this, like, go as a unit to all three or split up and take care of them in teensy groups, whatever. Just get it to them in the next week so that they have enough time to make their preparations. Especially Church, because Church is entitled to invite whichever representatives he wishes. That's his business, because we don't know any other Anarchs. You know. Church is important, the other two are important as well, but do it.
We take it to him first, I guess, because I mean, we started all of this because of him, so.
Wouldn't hurt. But there's no rush to go do it immediately. If there are things that she's not saying this isn't a thing to do like right now. The clock's running, but thank you very much for helping me. I have so much work to do. Goodbye. And then she'll bugger off, and Mikhail also has some things that he has to take care of, and Juliet goes back to being the prince, I guess. So you guys decide what your plan is.
I want to ask Mikhail how to do the thing, because I don't want Crimson poking around in my squishy matter again.
I'm gonna take him aside.
I did too, but I wasn't gonna ask that in front of everybody else.
Both Joanne and Katya would like to pull Mikhail aside and ask if he could help with mental fortitude, in a way.
Yes.
He sort of grimaces a bit and says, I'm not entirely sure that I can. I'd like for it to look like some fantastic little special skill of mine or say that it is an item that can be enchanted. Thankfully, it is not. Suffice to say, it is a thing that was specifically. Is this in front of everybody, Joanne? Or did you pull him aside?
I would have pulled him aside, yeah.
Katia, do you keep your distance then and not involve for now, or do you?
I would take my turn. Respect other people's privacy.
To Joanne, he doesn't say. He said that it was. Yeah, he said it was a thing that has. I guess you could say it is a gift that was imparted to me. I do not have the knowledge of the person who did it, and the person who did it is very far away. That is not to say that it cannot be done. Just, I don't think I can help.
Well, it's a lot knowing that something like this can be done already. I will. Maybe something in my tome.
Maybe. It could be a thing to focus next. Does Katia then ask basically the same question?
Though, of course, I would say, when we're done with our current course of studies, that is.
Well, you get a similar answer insofar as up until a point in which he says he doesn't know he can help. But then he says, you know as well as I that back in the homeland, certain contingents amongst our kind were very much into the experimental sciences and how to cross that with the experimental hocusy-pocusy shit. One of the key questions in a world in which your enemies can perhaps not only interrogate you with the usual mundane methods of much stabbing and poking and bleeding and acid, but can also simply reach into your mind and pull out whatever they wish, was how to make it not work while also seeming like it worked. I don't know what the fuck they did to me, but I know that, well, I have never had a baby, but it's probably the most painful thing next to that. I hope that the people who did that to me are dead. Because while I am very glad it happened, and it has served me well since, the 7 or 8 dead people they also tried to do it to are probably less pleased.
Well, my thanks then. I will reflect upon my time in Siberia in my search for enlightenment.
Happy travels. He's a bit... He's still got his usual irreverence, but you can tell that he doesn't really like talking about that shit. And that's all you get. But you do get more than Joanne, just for reasons of relatability. Alright. Anything else in the company of Juliet and Co., or shall you all move on to one of the things that you need to do? Because there's a number of things you could do. You can go straight into handing out Gwendolyn's invites. You could, if you wanted, look into anything you learned from Jake, though you're not sure that there are particularly solid leads yet. As for Selena, you are given the address of where she keeps her business, which is a fortune-telling place. Apparently she goes by the Serene Selena.
Oh, it's catchy.
Hey. Perhaps we should visit church first. If, as you say, he has to choose representatives, maybe he'll need more time.
Shall you all go, or
Church sounds good to me. Oh yeah, that's the thing. Like, do we split up? Because I mean, we're not anticipating any aggressions from church. Quite the contrary, actually.
you know that in order to meet with
Expect you to
Church, you got to go to the crack house and talk to Flanagan.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
So,
mind
I could...
getting out fun and getting it.
Cool.
We could always
Let's-
split up. 2 of us go see Church, 2 of us go see Maximilian, and then we all go and see the unknown quantity of Selena.
I like that. I like that. Katya knows the folks on that side.
I
ain't
can bring the
going
pooch.
anywhere near that
That seemed
banker.
to go over well last time.
Nulai, what were you
Yeah.
saying there?
I'm not going anywhere near that wanker.
Max.
So Katya and Nulai go see Flanagan, and
Well, Flynn hasn't met
Flynn-
Maximilian yet.
that's why I want Flynn to come with me because I really
He
want
can't be
Flynn
that
to
bad,
meet Maximilian.
He can't be that bad, can he? Sure, let's go meet this Max guy.
Awesome. Okay, that's the plan.
Okay, so you guys will, on this night at least, because you'll have a bit of time. We'll say that if you go meet Selena, it will be after an evening's break of some kind.
Cool.
Alright, now that we're out of just, regular, as much as we'll be time skipping, we will just do a solid general rouse check for everybody to see how they are in these next few meetings, rather than do it one per night.
Okay, let me see if I can roll one. Because I've got it open here on mobile. It might actually...
I heard a beep,
Might
but I
actually
don't know
let
if it was
me.
you. There's everybody else's. Katya gets a 10, Nulai gets a 4, Flynn gets a 5. So Nulai and Flynn, a little bit peckish. A little bit peckish.
Okay, I think I found it. Oh wait, I've got to scroll a lot.
Yeah,
And
Mobile Roll20 is about as much fun as a flesh-eating disease.
Yes. Because the little pop-up box is like this big. So you've got to scroll like this.
I would be happy to
And
do the
then-
clicking for you and save
it
you a
work?
lot of trouble, but it did work. You succeeded.
Okay.
You do
great.
not have to add to any hunger right now. So yeah, we'll just leave that as your sort of set levels. If we skip a day or two, the compromise is this. You won't have to do a rouse check for every new day, but also we won't include you going and feeding and refreshing on those days either. So you stay at 2 unless you happen to feed in a scene. I think that
Okay.
is a better balance. Alright, so we'll start with the church team of Nulai and Katya. Let me get my jaunty Irish music, shall I? Haven't been using this in a little while. As you enter, you realize that this place seems to just play the same 3 instrumental tracks on loop, and you judge Flanagan a bit for his fairly repetitive tastes, but Nulai, as you ponder this, you hear a sort of whisper in your mind, that of, I suppose, the voice of the city saying, DMCA. And you don't know what it means, but you feel as though everything is explained and that Flanagan is doing the best he fucking can with a shitty situation. Katya, you have no such insight. Flanagan sees you enter and does a little eyebrow raise at the fact that there's only two of you. He does his usual, I guess, surreptitious beckon as he moves into his back room, because he figures that by now there's no point beating around the bush. You guys usually are here when you want to have some discussions that normal people aren't to hear. What can I do for you two fine folks? I hope that your friends haven't fallen down a well or something.
Yeah, we just got a bit of an investigation here, and we needed to split up, cover more ground.
Searching for clues, eh? Well, I have heard a little trick to help you figure out who did it. It's always the second person that the Scooby Gang meets in the evenings.
Well, you're the first one here today, so
Then I guess I'm innocent.
consider yourself lucky.
Well, that's an ominous theory, considering we came here to ask you to arrange a meeting with the lion for us.
Be thankful this isn't a TV show, then. Right. That can be arranged. Tell you what, though. Make yourselves comfortable outside. Well, not outside, but in the main area. And they'll be along. They're fairly prompt when the situation calls for it, but just to give them a bit of incentive, what exactly am I telling them this is about?
We have a message from the prince.
Oh, very fancy. All right. He's correct. Doesn't take long at all. You notice that it's not a case of Flanagan shooing everybody out, but the hustle and bustle dies down a bit. The music gets quieter. There's just a more sedate atmosphere than normal, as is befitting what's about to happen. And pretty soon people are just, I don't know, they're not feeling the party vibe of the crack house tonight, and start leaving. And as it gets down to the last few drunk regulars, he, starts making noise about being last call, and they're a bit confused, like, well, but it's still early, what's happening? He says, look, I've got a bugger of a hangover coming on, and I just want to get to bed. Okay. And so, before too long, the bar has been emptied out. And Flanagan is cleaning up, and he says, oh, that was a weird time for the sudden... but nonetheless, and he says, right, well, you do take care of my bar. Even if he's the one who wrecks it, I'm still going to charge you two, because you're not as scary as the lion. And he leaves. And you're left alone for a little bit, maybe a minute or two. Till the door opens, and thankfully in human form, the resplendent figure of Theodore Church, with his dreadlocks and his cane, walks inside, accompanied by Sapphire, who of course you know rather well at this point. My friends from across political lines, how can I help you tonight?
We're merely here to convey a formal invitation on behalf of our prince.
Ah,
And I'll hold out the envelope.
Sapphire takes it, holds it up to the light. Well, Chief, if it's got a bomb in here, it's a really small one. Hands it to him. Thank you. Shh. He has a read. Do you be polite and not stare at the...
Mm-hmm.
Ulai? Do you politely look away and not try and look at the envelope around him?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Nulai is not really, trying too hard to focus on anything, just cruising along.
He gives it a cursory scan.
Maybe a little
Nice.
starstruck by
Church?
no, the other one.
Sapphire. Okay, fair enough.
Sapphire. I was thinking Catherine and used Sapphire, yeah.
He gives it a proper like scan read. He's like it's a fairly lengthy letter. Folds it again because it's one of those fold outs. I see. Interesting. So as I understand it, I have carte blanche to invite whoever I think represents a, shall we say, subgroup of the West Shadeport Collective. So nothing stops me from inviting 70 of my friends and eating you out of house and home.
If that is what our prince has written.
Your prince is trusting. You can tell them that there will be a few representatives aside from myself. And Sapphire here will join us. But it will not be a bank-breaking amount of rowdy anarchs. You believe me, I will, of course, restrict myself to the politer members of my society. So, my associate here tells me you went to hospital last night.
We did. We made a little bit of a withdrawal on our way out.
The young man. Is he alright?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Reasonably coherent, given his ordeal.
He's in good hands.
But did he see things he shouldn't?
Yes, but I'm told our experts in the ways of the mind will be handling that.
Far be it from me to doubt the Camarilla in their enforcement of rules. Sapphire fucking cackles at that. The rest of you may not. Well, like I said, or like I believe I said, these posters and the people behind them, we keep them out of our area, or perhaps they avoid those areas because they know they would not succeed. We have been looking into it. We consider this cult a threat to this city, and I hope you do as well. When it comes to bringing down whoever is behind this, regardless of the results of our negotiations, if you need our support, then we will be there.
Understood. Thank you very much, and
The matter
Mr.
of the
Church,
cult.
since I myself have no orders one way or another in the subject, I would be happy to participate in any operation whatsoever that destroys that organization.
Good. He looks at Nulai. And how about you? Are you enthusiastically interested in eradicating such miserable people?
Well, I'm mostly just tagging along, but I do admit that as much as I would love to say that Nulai doesn't fucking care, I don't think it's acceptable.
I won't pretend to be a moral superior in the arts of treating humans. I don't agree with killing them unnecessarily. In the name of the Masquerade, I will. But to push and pull and play with them like puppets, no. I think you can relate to me on this, he says to Katya. Perhaps back when you were mortal, the concept of hunters. Out in the wilds. Not for sport, they did it for food. Now, they didn't have the luxury of sparing their kills, so they would take only what they needed from the land. Well, I see it kind of like that. But not all of my people do. Anyway. I look forward to this Elysium. I look forward to meeting your interesting prince. I only hope that she is not planning something that you are unaware of. It would be very upsetting to be on opposite sides of a firing line.
Then let us all hope that it has not come to that. We shall convey your acceptance to our prince.
Oh. Don't serve any lion meat. Sapphire shakes her head. She thinks it's a bad joke. And that's all that they really have, if no other topics are raised by you. Okay. They don't offer any leads or insight regarding the cult, but Sapphire, I think, has someone's number, probably, or you have hers, and she says that if her sneaking around and learning comes up with anything, she will, with Church's permission, which he implicitly gave, let you know. Specifically about the cult problem. Okay. Meanwhile, Flynn and Joanne are traveling from one mansion in the hills to a more inner city estate. And it is striking. The House of Maximilian is especially notable for it has one of those like little rich person little front gardens, despite being in a very urban area. And there is a statue.
I was just gonna say, please tell me there's no statue.
Is he at least wearing clothes?
He is wearing clothes and sunglasses in the statue. And he's like doing a sort of pose. It's like that arms folded. Oh god. That was a bad
Yep.
time. Okay. We seem to have lost Joanne. Oh, have we regained Joanne?
Hello?
You have regained Joanne, but everybody is frozen.
Oh, that's me. Everyone's better. Okay.
I actually got kicked out there.
Wow. Which
was
techno
weird.
god did you upset? Anyway, you take in the statue. He's got sunglasses and he's posing with his arms folded like.
Oh my god.
It's not huge. It's not
I'm
like
not gonna like this guy, am I?
it's not bigger than him himself, but it's there on the front porch, and it's not the sort like it's inner city in the sort of like not the sort of place where people pull up in cars and park and stuff. He seems like a limo kind of guy, so you have to sort of park away and then walk over. You press the little intercom buzzer at the gates. How do you announce yourselves and who does it?
I would announce Joanne. Camarilla.
You say Camarilla. You do not get a response, but the gates just do that whole
Nice.
You feel as though that is an indication to enter.
I mean, are open gates not?
Yeah.
Are closed gates not? I mean, yeah. Anyway, we go in.
You knock upon the door. It also opens itself. You enter.
Oh my god.
There is a
This could get
staircase
tiresome.
in the entrance room, and at the top of the staircase you hear, "My good friends!
Oh, no.
So nice to see you, Joanne, and... Oh, I do not believe we are acquainted." Now, the person that you are seeing is, dressed in that sort of, like... What's the word? Weird, modern designer fashion kind of half... It's not like a futuristic sort of look, but it's like he wants it to be.
Avant-garde?
Yeah, like he's not in a suit. He's in that kind of...
Are we thinking like Tokyo street fashion kind of?
Yeah, it's kind of a street sort of casual but like fancy, like in a fancy stuff in a casual design to be like, you know, we're not. I'm cool. I'm not old school formal.
How do you do, fellow kids?
He's a wanker.
Yeah.
It's not much else to say but that.
Yeah.
How do you respond to him saying that he does not know?
Is he walking down the stairs like grandiosely well?
Yes, as he acknowledges you and then says, "I do not believe we are acquainted."
Flynn gives a bit of a wave.
Oh my, you do seem a little tense. You know, I know the best massage therapist I can get you in touch with.
Flynn is distinctly uncomfortable in this person's presence.
Well, never mind. Perhaps a
I look
laxative.
over at Flynn and just like giggle a little bit, but just like wink at her.
Now, I know why you are here, Joanne, and I am humbled and grateful that you would feel moved so. But there is no need to fret. You needn't apologize to me. I know you may feel like you failed, but in fact, Miss Daisy appeared just tonight. She's here.
Oh. Wow.
Oh dear.
Max, I I don't know how to tell you this.
Oh?
I I thought long and hard, and I decided it had to be me who brought this news to you. This very, very difficult news. Just so that you understand that we note the gravitas of the situation. You have an invitation. Here you go.
Ooh, fancy. Ah, Elysium. Truly at no other place does a Toreador feel quite at home.
Now that the formal business is taken care of.
Oh, I see I am allowed to bring a friend. Perhaps I will bring Miss Daisy. This, you feel...
About that!
You remember yeah, Max's, the way he described Daisy, he wasn't... Him and her didn't seem to be getting along before, so this is weird.
They were not on speaking terms. This is weird as fuck!
So yeah, what do you ask him?
About that. She's here, huh?
Yes, indeed.
Just like that?
Well, she knocked upon my door earlier and explained everything, and I must say... Oh, that Daisy, she's such a character. I am so sorry for worrying you. It was entirely upon me. She just had a bit of a, well, a tough time with social issues and felt that she needed to take a little bit of a holiday to focus her mind, relax, and, in fact, I could of course let her explain. Daisy, you here? We have guests. You hear upstairs the sound of footsteps, and you recognize Joanne, the woman from the video feed that you saw having what appeared to be several breakdowns, trashing her room, and finally being taken away by hospital or paramedics. And she's dressed a lot more fancily than he is. She's more traditionally, like, she's got a flowing gown, looks like, you know, different style, but she's looking happy and glowing and fine, and she says, "Oh yes, Max, darling. Hello, hello. I believe you were tasked with my, retrieval, This music doesn't suit this. Let's grab something else. What did I use for Max last time? I think I used this one. This'll do. Yeah, this'll do. Alright. Yes, well, I'm so sorry to worry you all. I was just, you know, as we ladies sometimes do when things get a little too much.
We do?
See.
Well, perhaps you are stronger than me, of course.
Well, I'm certainly glad to see you in one piece.
To the person in chat, yes, very, but this person has had some experiences, and we're not entirely sure. But just to bring people to terms that what we know about Daisy is that she's just spent a few days at a brainwashing in a brainwashing operation under a hospital. So that's why we're not really sure what's going on with Daisy right now. But you guys never met her before all this, so you don't know what her personality was before all this. This is what you've got. She basically says, you know, I was just really struggling with the difficulties and stresses of my life, and this lovely doctor offered to help me with my anxiety. I went on a miniature retreat to his facility, and, well, I was released yesterday. Not long after, I believe, Max came to you, unfortunately. It really was terrible circumstances, but I feel much better now.
I see. Well, that is certainly good to hear.
Yes.
Interesting. Do you mind if we just over there? And I kind of grab Flynn and I'm like, so this is happening. Can we get her, like, back to the mansion or something? Because bitches be great. Like, this is not normal at all.
Thoughts, Flynn?
Flynn forgot to push to talk.
Oh.
We don't know what she was brainwashed to do. Maybe it would be better to sort of observe and report rather than remove her.
That's also a good idea.
We could also name drop Nathaniel. See if there's any sort of recollection or...
if any triggered response. Okay. I'm gonna leave that up to you.
You know, subtlety is not really my thing, so I'll go for it.
How do we do this? Okay, wait, I have an idea.
I could always just
watch
ask.
her. Watch her. I'm gonna say something to Max now, and tell me how she responds.
All right.
So then I go meander back over to Max.
They appear to be discussing
So,
fashion, but they stop
I'm
as you cut
really
it.
glad. I'm really glad to see that Daisy is, I assume, back to her chipper old self.
As am I.
So I do believe that as for your chosen representatives, my prince has no objections. As long as, you know, your +1 isn't Nathaniel, we should be cool.
Max sort of looks... Well, yeah, we'll do them in turn. Max, his eyes perhaps furrowing, sort of... My word, that is... I'm sorry, I realised that was a joke, my dear. It is rather a dark topic to bring up to a Shadeport kindred. I realize you are new and that you are trying to perhaps put on a more experienced face. I'm not sure, but I must warn you that name does tend to make kindred uncomfortable. Flynn, you're watching Daisy. She does not flinch. She sort of glazes a little, and then as Max replies and, is a condescending shit stain to Joanne, she sort of, it's like she snaps back into... You definitely see that she sort of goes off for a bit, and then she comes back and she sort of nods and agrees with him, and it's like, oh yes, very much.
So, Flynn will step forward and she'll go, so, Daisy, you find the topic of Nathaniel quite distasteful too?
As I imagine anybody who came here would. We do not like to think of those times. The idea that what happened to all of them before us might happen once again. It's... Well, of course it won't, but it is quite alarming, yes.
Sorry.
Coming to Shadeport itself, well, it takes a brave soul.
Could I perhaps ask what sort of treatment you had? I mean, I myself, as you say, Shadeport takes a brave soul, and not all of us are so brave. I'm just wondering if I myself could benefit.
Oh, it was a fundamental rewiring of the brain, I dare say. Oh, I do exaggerate a little, but Dr. Hansen, he simply showed me that the way I looked at my troubles and my worries, it was like, you know how we all have a blind spot? It was like mine was everywhere. I had dozens of them all over my vision, and I simply could not see through them. Well, Dr. Emile, he gave me a flashlight and showed me the way.
I see. That's. I'm glad that you were able to find that help.
Indeed, and I hope you do too. Although I'm not sure that Dr. Hansen is available at the moment. Something happened apparently. I hope he's okay.
Oh goodness! Whatever could that have been?
Can I use my premonition?
You can. Sorry, you froze when you said that. So it was basically like you telepathically asked the question. You would like to call upon a premonition to get like an idea of what is happening here. Okay. I can do the rolling to save you from...
It would be very kind.
Resolve and Auspex, but it is also a rouse check. So let's give you the rouse check. You have succeeded. You are not hungry. You're still on 1.
Yay!
And now resolve plus your Auspex, which is a roll of 6 dice. 5 successes. You luckily didn't crit, because that would have been a messy critical with your hunger die being the 10 there, if you can see it. But 5 successes is quite a lot. You look at Max very carefully, and you look at Daisy very carefully, and you just try and see if you can see past their exterior and into their minds and work out the truth of what is happening here. Max, it's like you see, it's almost like you get X-ray vision, kind of, because you just kind of see this light in the rough shape of a brain inside of their heads, and you can see that Max's is what you are feeling in your gut is normal. You see that this is Max. This is who Max is. Nothing's been done to him. Then you look at Daisy, and you see that instead of this white brain shape, you see that it's like someone has taken a magic marker and just gone all over it, because it is just these... It strikes you as a yellow. It strikes you as a yellow, and you know that yellow is foreign. That yellow is not her. That yellow is not supposed to be there, and it is mixed in with all the parts of her mind, and it is squashing the parts of her mind, and it is just like you in this sort of mental world that you are envisioning. You feel as though if you attempted to grab that yellow, and it's kind of a thread, it kind of all joins together in amongst the normal brain muck. You feel like if you were to grab that and try to shake it out, you could, but she would crumble into pieces. Whatever has been done to her is very, 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 very threaded and deep, and you get the impression that she is completely under the influence and domination of whatever this is. And you know full well that that is what the people who have gone through Dr. Hansen's treatment are like. And you don't feel like it can be undone.
Okay. That makes me very cautious because, like, what they were saying about, like, this person that steps out at the picture that, like, talks to people and, like, sort of repeats the message over and over. If this brainwashing is successful, could they potentially act as, like, resonators? Like, I don't know, like, in a hive mind situation, you would have, like, those who would act as receivers, those who would act as transmitters with these people.
You focus your mind across those lines of thought, across, you know, like is the presence of a like are you saying like is like the presence of this Nathaniel being put into these people? Is that what you're trying to figure out?
Yeah, like could she, I don't know if you watched The Good Place, but could she potentially be like a walkie-talkie Janet mode kind of thing? You know, if she arrives at the Elysium as a +1, that's my immediate concern.
Yeah, you feel as though the what you are seeing in her brain is not just writing, it's not instructions, it's not strange ideas, it is a will.
Okay.
But you're not fully certain if it is some created thing that's been put into her and has replaced her, or if it is a reaching tendril of another person who is controlling all of them. But you feel as though it's like there's another... It's like there's someone in there that is not Daisy. Daisy's in there too, but she's not driving the bus.
She's not driving Miss Daisy?
I was just going to say, somebody's driving Miss Daisy.
So yeah, you feel this overwhelming Morgan Freeman-esque presence inside of her brain. No, because that's not a voice I generally do. Well, that's a lot. That's a lot for your 5 successes. You can't get any more than that.
Okay, but that's enough. That is enough. I am very keen to and go and have a conversation with Juliet as soon as possible.
And I just want to get away from Maximilian, to be honest. Or Maximilian. As far away as possible.
He feels like too much conditioner in your hair, doesn't he?
It feels like I've conditioned my brain with bleach.
No, that's what you want to do after Maximilian.
Yeah.
Alright, Max, wishes you well and says, I look forward to seeing you both at the Elysium. I hope you dress to the nines.
Never doubt it.
I know you guys can't see my face, but just imagine the fakest, most horrified smile just plastered on there.
If you'd like a discount on some of my...
No, it's fine. I've got my own stuff.
Very well. So, the meeting with Church did not lead to any super pressing things, but I assume, Joanne, that you want to go straight to Juliet, and would you want to invite the other two as well to hear the latest news on Miss Daisy?
Yes, I want the whole gang there. I want Mikhail there. I want everyone.
Okay.
We're getting the band back together.
Gwendolyn doesn't come along this time. She's busy.
Yay, good riddance.
All right.
You can also stay with her.
For the sake of expedience, we won't go into you relating what just happened, but you do. Firstly, do Nulai or Katia have anything that they say immediately in response to this story?
Nah.
We can
Okay.
also assume that I've told them what I saw, like
If
in my
that's- yeah, if that was
premonition.
your plan,
That's
yeah.
included. Yeah.
I'd be curious to see if you used that same sort of auspex on Jake, if there was any lingering sort of damage that matched Daisy.
Ooh.
You know that it's a difficult thing, and that usually this happens to you at random. If it was going to happen to you with Jake, it would have. So you kind of like, it's hard.
Fair point.
And Juliet sort of nods,
it's
like
okay.
it's a tough one. So I guess you've relayed your concern of what if Max brings Daisy to the Elysium and Daisy is some kind of landmine.
Yeah.
Sleeper agent, Manchurian candidate, what have you?
Mm-hmm. I mean, given that.
It is. Mikhail steps in. It is very possible. The
We also
problem
couldn't.
is diplomatic. Technically, I have the authority to forbid Daisy from coming, but that sends a message, and our position is somewhat shaky.
But as the organizers of this Elysium, we also have a massive pressure and responsibility as the first one being organized in Shadeport in who knows how long.
Yeah.
And as a small budding Camarilla, if things go wrong under our watch, I mean, which risk is greater at this point?
We are obliged to keep our guests safe. If there's some incident, we only look the weaker for it.
And how many others like
Mhm.
Daisy are there amongst the people who would be attending the Elysium?
That we also don't know.
I would suggest a subtle approach to keeping Daisy away, perhaps give Daisy a reason to not want to come along. Might be difficult, however, if she has been rewired to desire it at all costs.
Well, we could test that theory. Could we maybe influence Max to have a falling out with her? I don't know. Maybe he tells her that her new hairstyle is unforgivable and he wouldn't be caught dead with her in public or something. I don't know.
Does
May
he
we consider giving her what she wanted in the first place? She was you'll pardon my analysis, a bit of a sad someone who felt like a failure. That's why she sought out what she did. Maybe Max could be persuaded to give her some glamorous assignment somewhere that keeps her occupied that evening.
Or we might be able to couch it in that, you know, it would be awfully embarrassing for Max if she were to have one of her meltdowns in public at the Elysium.
The central question we do not know the answer to is this. Has she been rewritten such that she has a job to do at Elysium? If she has a job to do at Elysium, then we probably will not succeed in convincing her to stay away. If we can convince her to stay away, then it is likely we didn't need to bother in the first place.
Yes.
Max would be the one to influence.
That's what I'm thinking.
Elysium is some time away yet, 3 weeks. We can ruminate on this one. We don't need to act now, especially since they've already seen you once. It would be strange if you appeared again. This would be the sort of thing to do in a behind-the-scenes sort of way. She says, kind of like, you know, formulate a plan, figure out who then talks to Max, do it. What your storyteller is basically saying is like a between sessions thing rather than a specific scene of, like, come up with, you know, what exactly do we want to get him to do, and then see if it works before and behind, rather than unless it becomes some big operation. But really, it's just a matter of a subtle influence if that's your plan, or investigate more if that's where your minds are.
Flynn,
Right idea. Oh yeah, go.
so Flynn just gonna look at Mikhail and there's always the third option, and she's gonna make like Hitchcock psycho stabbing motions.
Mikhail looks to Juliet, who, if it comes to that, but for diplomacy's sake, let's see if we can be discreet.
So use a little knife.
Jesus. You said it does not appear as though what has been done to her can be reversed, based on how it felt.
She was a very fractured being to begin with. It doesn't surprise me that any sort of destabilizing would probably crumble her entirely.
That is not good, but it is also not confirmed. Your instincts come as a result of what you know and what you perceive. It is possible that someone with a more magically minded view might know some ways you do not. We can have her monitored.
It is also possible that mental state before something like this occurs, if the person or kindred is more stable, that perhaps it is reversible, but
Yeah.
maybe she is an isolated case.
We're unfamiliar with this power, so we would need to learn more. Anyway, other than that, yeah, the short-term goal is to try and keep her specifically away from Elysium and keep an eye out for anyone else who might be in her condition. Obviously, Joanne, if you get any flashes of people's brains, that would be super awesome, but other than that, nothing that they can do in the immediate. So, shall we say that that's that night, and that the next step would be to go for Selena either the night after or the night after that. We'll say maybe the night after that, just have, because Joanne has some design work to do, Katia might be spending time at the animal shelter, Flynn might be delivering a body across the town for Crimson for all she bloody knows. Or meeting up with the strange Donnelly, who might not be named Donnelly woman. Anyhow. So yeah, does anybody do anything in private time between this and the next, or would we move on to delivering the third letter?
Well,
I would want to spend more time reading my book.
That is true. We could do a book reading roll, but Nulai, what you into?
Yeah, New Life still has, one more bone to pick with the meditation stone.
Ah, yes. I believe you wanted to ruminate on Katia?
Yeah.
Okay, this could be fun. It's a pretty solid roll for you at this point because you're coming at it fresh and ready. What did we say the roll was before? I think because we were heightening your ore specs, so you used your ore specs, and I think we were using resolve with it because it was a slow, careful concentration. So you can use it as a sense the unseen roll there because it's the same dice, but it's not sense the unseen as a power.
No modifiers?
Nah, we'll give you a +1 because you're coming at it fresh. Success is 3. That is pretty solid. Oh boy, your resolve is not high. Oops. There we go. Okay.
I think that has been very visible.
So you're putting Katia into the forefront of your mind. You're just doing what you did with the other two last time. You're just trying to get some insight into the people that you're working with. And once again, like Joanne, there is no music that comes to you. In fact, it's a very eerily quiet scene that your mind is transported to. It's not as murky and weird as Flynn's, but it's not as easy to see and joyous as Joanne's. It is daylight, but the sun isn't quite so welcoming and wonderful. It feels like it was a long time ago. And the scenery is white. It is a white sort of mountainous tundra, snowy, hard to see stuff. But what you are seeing, and you zoom in sort of as you see them from your, in the sky kind of point of view, you see 4 figures moving along. And you see that they're in military uniform. And they're carrying rifles. And to the best of your knowledge, yeah, they look old. The guns look old. The people look like people, but, you're having trouble nailing down who they belong to. Their faces feel unimportant. It's like whatever you're seeing, you're looking directly at them, but you just can't make out the details of who they are. You just get this general sense of does not matter. And as they march, really, suddenly a loud crack rings out and blood comes firing out of the guy in front's head. And he drops. Now they're in sort of a lower pass. There's higher cliffs. They panic. They scatter. They don't know where the sound came from. They don't know where the shot came from. And it doesn't take too long. While they are still moving very fast, despite that, I guess you could say, there is another crack. There is another burst of blood out the side of a head. And another falls. The other two manage to determine the direction, and they pull under some cover. And you can see the sweat. You can see the shaking. They don't know what to do. They sort of inch their way along under the cover. But they can't go any further after a certain point. In order to get across, they would have to run out into the open. And so they stop. And they wait. And you feel the hours tick. It takes as long as for you watching this as it did for them. And you can't pull out either. You don't feel the ability to just return to yourself. You're just watching them sit there and realize how fucked they are in the snow as it gets colder. And they shiver and their sweat betrays them and just becomes more cold. And after the longest damn time, perhaps they think that the danger is past. They look to each other, they rev themselves up, and they go. And they fall. And you're looking at these 4 people that didn't stand a chance. These 4 soldiers that didn't stand a chance. And then your mind moves. You don't want it to, but it does. Up to one of those higher hills. Gets up close. Buried in the snow, very carefully hidden. You see the sniper's nest. You can't really see the person, because they are very rugged up and they are camouflaged. but you hear the sort of sounds of like a radio thing. And then you hear a voice you recognize in a language you don't, saying something that you can only assume is a report. And you fade out from there. Back into Nulai meditating in his room. And you know that it hasn't actually been very long at all. It's just been a minute of you there. Cardia's done some stuff.
Well, I bet. Nulai is contemplating. Because now all these insights make him curious, but also in a weird way, they also make him a little afraid, a little wary. It's like it's almost like a Pandora's box that once you open, you can't go back.
Yeah.
So Nula, at this point, Nula is contemplating, do I really want to look into myself? And he reaches the point of indecisiveness, to the point where he knows that, I shouldn't be holding the stone for much longer. I gotta return it eventually.
Yeah.
And well, he knows he has done some dumb decisions in the past based on, lack of time, running out of time. So what he ultimately opts. He picks up a coin. He chooses.
All right, Anton.
Heads, I look, and tails, I don't.
Okay. How are we doing this? Have you got an actual coin, or do you want to roll a dice?
I think a dice would be fine, or something. I don't.
Right, I think you can do a manual one in Roll20. I think you slash
Roll 2.
1d2, I guess. And then it will give you a 1 or a 2. But which one's heads and which one's tails, Snip?
I didn't choose.
Set it and then roll again.
Okay, heads is 1, tails is 2.
Tails.
Tails.
Some doors best left unopened. Okay. The gas station clerk doesn't get shot in the head today. Don't mind the reference if you didn't get it.
Well, no, I should not. Maybe it's for the best. After all, I feel maybe a little comfort in what I have right now. Best not to ruin it.
Does Nulai...
Nulai picks up his phone and readies to call a number. Of course, double checks to make sure that his number isn't being sent out while being called, and he calls a familiar number that he has called before, which I believe does not belong to Crimson himself, but rather his bodyguard.
Yes. So you're hiding who is calling?
Yeah.
Okay. Who is this?
The cuckoo has flown to the nest.
Mr. Nulai. Sorry, Nulai.
You got that right.
I guess I take it this is to arrange a meeting with my employer.
Yep.
I will call back when I have details. Click. He calls you not long after, and he asks if tonight works or if tomorrow.
That should be fine.
Okay. He names the same park. He states once again, come alone, but he says, I will be there, but I will walk away if you insist.
I appreciate it.
Click. Do you fetch Joanne for this, as you mentioned before you might?
I knock on, I knock on Joanne's door and
Good.
say that it is time, whether she wants or not. But I would appreciate.
Okay,
I would appreciate
I'm
her
in.
joining.
I'll, like... I assume we can stop, like, some distance from where you're supposed to be. And, then I can do my thing. You can go up as if you are alone on the approach, and we're not too obvious.
Yeah. So to
Works for me.
get us moving along a little, yeah, you guys made at the park. You sit in the bench that you're supposed to, Nulai, as with.
Do I need to roll for my ability?
Since we're doing it, we're having you set up sort of before the meeting starts. I would say that you will rouse check for it, but you won't need to do any kind of roll. Obviously, there's a rouse check for every stealth, but you won't have any trouble vanishing. Do you want me to rouse check for you, or are you good?
I'm going to attempt it,
Alright.
because I think the button's still there. Tools. There we go.
Burn. I can add your hunger if you like. There we go.
Please do.
You're feeling it a little, but not too much. Okay.
Okay.
Crimson arrives. Salim is with him, but he, walks off and sort of just does some patrolling, monitoring. I assume, Joanne, that you just quietly get away from him if he comes near. As the bodyguard
yeah,
appears
I'm just
to
like,
be.
if he has an area of effect, I don't really want to be in it.
Yep.
Like
he looks
this.
like a patrolling soldier with a rifle, except he doesn't have the rifle, but he looks, like with the strapped and like he's doing that but without the actual gun. Very, very, very much short back and sides, military bearing, except, a dark figure in the night, so terrifying. New lie! It's good to finally hear back from you. Do you have it?
Of course. The cuckoo visits the nest, leaves his eggs, and of course takes one of their own. Maybe not the most traditional cuckoo, but, well, here it is.
Yes. Congratulations, you have managed to confuse Walter Crimson / Nathaniel. He just okay, he takes it and he looks at it and he says,
Does he say that out loud? Like, does he call himself Nathaniel? then?
No, he's not saying, that's me saying it. Like, he's just looking at you like, what the fuck? But he takes it. He's like, well, I'll have to be honest with you, Nulai. And you're in earshot of, you hear what's happening, Joanne? You're close enough to hear the conversation? Good.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest with you, Nulai. This was an interesting experiment. I imagine your prince was confused, given that this stone is, for all intents and purposes, just a stone, an object to help your focus, not something that could be used to monitor or gather information, and indeed it is. Just a stone. You might want to keep it, in fact. It might help you. However, I wanted to see what you do. I wanted to see where your conscience would take you, and I must say, as someone who can appreciate and respect loyalty, I do understand why you made the decisions you did. And you certainly have nothing to fear from me. But I am aware that you did not complete our bargain in full good faith as it was made.
What do you mean?
The prince knows full well that you are here tonight. She knows full well what you almost did, but in fact did not. Yes?
I do not understand.
I told you I appreciate loyalty. And I can understand that you are reluctant to speak too plainly. But nonetheless, I do not think we shall be working together in the short term. Though again, I say that with full respect and understanding. I can offer you some advice, however.
Well, first advice would be gluing me in.
On what?
What do you mean? I got you the stone.
You got me the stone? Yes. But the prince is aware that you got me the stone. You demonstrated your loyalty.
Nula is just staring silently.
Crimson does not know how to communicate with you in a way that makes any sense. Look, I'm not sure what's going on in there, but suffice to say, I do not think you fulfilled the bargain as stated. In fact, as I say, you can keep the stone. Feel free to disagree with me.
If you insist. I did not come to this world with full knowledge of what's going on, and well, I hoped to gain more knowledge from here. Yes, I failed.
You know who your friends are. For your sake, I hope you're right. But I will say, that little voice that whispers to you in melodies and rhyme, I wouldn't be so quick to assume that one is your friend. Perhaps we'll see each other again. I've heard there was an Elysium round the corner. I'm certainly looking forward to scoring myself an invitation. And believe me, when I want to go to a party, I go to a party. He makes a move to leave. Do you stop him? Ask him anything else?
I would like to know something. Like, if you know, not a favor or anything, just a thought.
Yeah.
A thought I've been ruminating. It seems that my fame seems to have followed me here. If you happen to know anything about that.
Are you asking me why I know things about you? Things that you...
Well, not only you. It seems that wherever I go, everybody seems to know my name. It's like I entered a very friendly tavern, yet here I am, first time ever.
Something that strikes you as not quite the norm, Well,
I do not know why I am here, but I have been forming theories.
To the best of my knowledge, the neighborhood in which you arrived is under fairly unambiguous kindred control. In order to get you there, someone would have had to speak to those kindred. And you know someone brought you here. Perhaps that is where the news of who you are traveled. Or perhaps they simply watched you. Eyes in the dark, learning what they could that way. I found out about you through the grapevine, as I tend to. I don't consider myself a primary source, and I certainly don't intend to give my sources up. But in the world of kindred, the first thing you really, really must internalize is that your secrets, they're not as secret as you ever want them to be. You know that people can walk around without being seen. You know that people can hear at a distance greater than they should, see at a distance greater than they should. You know that people can look into your eyes and tell you to do something, and then you will do it as if it were your own idea. And you tell me that you are surprised that some things you thought shouldn't be known are widespread? Well, that is something you'll have to learn. I wish you luck with it. But I really must be going. Good night, Nulai.
Would you...
Good night, Joanne.
One more. Joanne?
He is walking. You can chase after him if you want.
Nah. I'll keep some of my dignity.
Okay. Out of curiosity, what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna propose him a theory of a theory that Nulai has comprised, but
Interesting.
I guess I'll leave that to another time.
Are there
I
other
can't
people
say
you
I'm
could
surprised.
bring it up to? We could rewind it and have him
No.
stay for that before he does his little goodbye,
What?
Joanne.
Sure, we can
If it's something good, yeah. All right, yeah, we can have him listen to that, but he doesn't bring up Joanne until after this is done.
Yeah.
A theory.
You know, I have been trying to ponder the reason for my existence here, and I've come to a couple of ideas here and there, pieces that might connect together, and I've been formulating that this is a little out there, but do you know about all the posters everywhere?
I have heard of them. Seen them indeed. Sounds like the work of a nefarious mind.
You know what I'm thinking?
Enlighten me.
Maybe I'm Nathaniel?
I would very much like to see that. It would make my job so much easier. And then he gets up, and he doesn't allow anything else, and he says what he says before. He says, "Good night, Nulai. Good night, Joanne." And he says that as he is continuing to move away, and Salim, weirdly enough, knew exactly when to fall back into lockstep with his employer. And he just sort of leaves you.
Nulai just does his same, pretending to not realize Joanne was here all along.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
But
He's like
yeah.
Kuno that way.
he doesn't care. Doesn't buy it.
He doesn't. He's dismissed you both, and he's gone.
Well,
It doesn't
that's
surprise
the
me.
first plan.
I shrug and I'm like, well,
Y'all tried.
I kind of expected that.
Could have told you to stay further back, I guess.
I think no matter where I was, he probably would have seen me. The thing that is truly unnerving is that he hid it so well. He is definitely every bit as dangerous as you think he is.
Yeah, we might be just a couple of newbies, but we're dealing with a professional here.
Mm-hmm.
In the interest of time, Ruthie, you're gonna have to go shortly, yes?
Yes,
Okay.
about 10-15 minutes.
That's fine. There is one more thing that is Joanne related, though you will miss the meeting with the Tremere, which will be the last thing we do probably.
I'll catch the VOD for that for sure.
Yeah. We can also do your roll to figure out if you learn anything in the book. That can be quick. What were you asking after specifically, or what were you researching for specifically?
Along the lines of the conversation that I had with Kyle about like sort of gaining mental fortitude, strengthening myself a little bit, and I'm now even more motivated to do so after the whole Crimson thing, because
Okay.
like, what is the point of being able to hide if all my enemies, the ones that really matter, can see me or like overpower me? Like that sucks.
Occult and Resolve. I will do the roll so that you don't have to mess with this thing on your phone. 5 successes. Okay.
Oh, I'm gonna make you roll for me every time.
You're apparently very
Nice.
good at it in my hands. Yes, there you go. That's fine. You are able to glean quite a bit. It's not like you're not gonna immediately know how to get this in yourself, but basically there is the more you learn. Unfortunately, you're not someone who practices Dominate specifically. The best way to defend yourself against Dominate is to do it yourself. Practice it yourself. However, just being a kindred in general, if you are aware and you can like train yourself, not in a vampire power way, but just a general alertness to be ready for any kindred that you meet to do that. But the key things are that eye contact, unless it's an incredibly powerful kindred, you need to have caught their eye in order for them to do anything to you of that sort. You need to look at them. So if you don't make eye contact with a kindred you think will do that, they can't affect you unless they are god tier, basically, and, well, you don't know how good Crimson is. You notice that he didn't seem to try anything on Nulai, so that's a thing. So that's first of all. You also learn... You don't learn anything about what Mikhail hinted at, which was a version of it where the vampire doesn't realize that they have been thwarted. Most of what you're reading states that, yeah, as this is kind of a two-way process, the vampire that attempts to control your mind will know that it has failed. But I assume that you're less... whatever works, sort of thing.
I mean, yeah, any win is a win right now. Anything that helps, obviously that would be a great thing to have, but...
There are definitely enchantments that can increase one's mental resilience. There's also a more physical discipline that enables you to strengthen your mind against mental assaults, practiced by such clans as Ventru and Gangrel, which is the clan you recognize as Katia's. In fact, out of character, I think Katia literally has the ability I'm thinking of, right? Do you? Or was it someone else? No, you don't. Flynn?
Do I?
Yeah, you do, but it's not one of your clan disciplines. You have unswayable mind. I think it was because of your predator type. You got to pick a random power from another thing.
Gotcha.
But yeah, like, it would be possible for you to use this book to teach yourself that mental sort of fortitude resistance power, given enough time, if you keep focusing on that. It'd be like the learning that I said before, how the more you do it, the cheaper it becomes. That is a level 1 fortitude passive that enables your rolls against mental influence to be buffed like all the time. And so, yeah, in Timeskip Land, which we can deal with between streams, you could work your way towards getting that. It would normally cost you 70 XP, but you'd be able to work that down.
Okay.
So that's the closest and easiest thing that you reckon will help you in that, and that's definitely an option you can take.
I'm aiming for it, for sure.
Cool. Otherwise, at some point during your reading reveries, and I guess we'll just say that Joanne didn't come along to the next thing because of reading and researching and being overwhelmed by waves of nerd, and you guys were like, yeah, it's alright, you can stay, we'll deal with the Tremere. That's fine. You're approached by Mikhail, who's looking uncharacteristically concerned. Not scared, just like, oh god, this is a pain. Joanne, I have something to run by you.
You look very serious, Mikhail. What's up?
Well, ahead of our Elysium, I do wonder if you have noticed this. In all your time of being with us, being with Juliet, how many times have you seen our prince leave this mansion? The answer is you remember being turned by Juliet in your home. That's it. You've never seen her outside the mansion otherwise.
No.
I am not of your clan, but you would know better than me that being Malkavian, becoming Malkavian, at one point his mouth and his grasp of English stutters, and it almost sounds like he's saying being John Malkovich, but he doesn't. Sorry, I couldn't resist. He says, brings with it various challenges. In Prince Juliet's case, the more stressful and difficult her situation becomes, the more off-putting she finds it to travel up. At least physically.
I look at him and I'm like, are you saying she's agoraphobic?
You use fancier words than me. I just beat people.
Basically, she can't leave the mansion?
I believe it. I have been in her service a very long time. She is capable of travel at the height of her abilities, but quite often she is not, which is why so much of the time we do the work that we do. For a prince to show weakness of that kind is not so good. But my concern is this. I believe come Elysium she will push herself to go. And I admire that. I do not know how successful it will be. And I have perhaps an alternative in mind that I am not sure how she will react to.
And you want me to suggest?
I want to see what you think first. You're a big part of this.
Alright.
As I say,
I have no idea where this is going.
It is where she is personally located that is the problem. Her great power and force of will is perhaps a different story. it would be possible, were there a willing candidate with the right sort of compatibility, for Juliet to go to the Elysium without going to the Elysium. By creating a illusion of sorts upon the body. And also, and I'm not talking about possession here, but having Juliet exist within the back reaches of our candidates.
Kind of like a motorcycle sidecar passenger kind of thing.
She would be able to communicate with this person. I know it. This is a thing she can do. The other part, the glamour, that of course would be Gwendolyn's department. But she would be able to... It's kind of like having a radio in your head, except if the circumstances were truly, truly, truly fucking dire, she would be able to do a bit more than that.
Right.
You would perhaps be able to tap into her talents. As far as I'm aware, you would be in control.
Well, from a practical perspective, genius. Could I sleep on it?
Of course, of course.
We have some time.
If she goes, it may work out fine, but it would be an unprecedented thing, and this is a precarious situation.
Yeah. Any sign of weakness, we are already tiptoeing on eggshells, so
Yes.
I think it's an option we should seriously consider.
I agree. Well, considering it is mine. But Juliet would be very hesitant to, well, do this to you. If she were to agree to it, it would need to come from both of us, and you would need to sound sure. If it doesn't happen, well, we can deal with helping her through it otherwise. I just think we would present a stronger front if she did not have to confront this beast so soon, so quickly, and so publicly. Not that I don't think she should confront
agree.
it. Just maybe not
I agree.
now. Thank you.
I
appreciate
think
that.
if I spend some time and I think about it, then I can present myself with you as certain and assuage any fears she might have.
Good.
I would want to be certain.
From a DM perspective, this solves the problem of the NPCs doing all the negotiating between each other. From a character perspective, if this doesn't work out, that's fine. It is in the end like a thing that Joanne and Juliet, based on however that conversation happens, probably at the beginning of next session, will decide whether or not it goes this way or it goes the other way. But I thought it'd be fun. So
It would be kind of fun.
you'd get, yeah, you sort of understand what he's getting at because it's an Auspex thing. Basically, yeah, you would get Juliet in your ear. She technically would be able to possess you if she wanted, but if you trust her not to do that, she probably won't. But you would have the control, you would take her suggestions, so to speak, and if you were needing to use powers, you would be able to do some things you normally couldn't, and be able to do some things you already can better. But it wouldn't affect
like
anything that you have that she doesn't. Basically, you would you tap into what she has. Certainly be fun. Anyhow, that's about it for Mikal. I'd say we'll take a bit of a break here. I will need to BRB screen it anyway in order to fix the cameras after you go. So
Okay.
is that good? Is this about the
That
time you'd have
is-
to run?
Yes, that is perfect. And now I'm even more excited for next session because
Yes.
I never thought I'd say this, but I can't wait to be possessed.
Exactly. Okay, cool. But yeah, we'll do the hey Juliet, we have a crazy plan at the start of next session with you and Mikhail.
Awesome.
But
and I'll
unless
catch
things
up
go-
on the exciting visit through the VOD later.
Yeah, you'll have about an hour's VOD to watch unless we really go over time. I doubt it. All right, we will take 5 minutes off. Stay tuned, everybody. Please enjoy the lovely, calming BRB screen, and we'll be back. All right. We return, and we have smoothly altered the cameras without an awful clunkery. There is an unfortunate dark abyss where once stood Joanne, but we can rest assured that Ruthie was not in fact lost in a black hole, but has in fact just left us and no longer has a camera feed. We needn't any conspiracy theories about that. Unless they're really, really, really interesting. So, does anything happen before the three of you get together to go and pay a visit to the Serene Selena? Does anybody do or say anything with anyone else?
I think Flynn.
Have anything.
Flynn?
Yeah, Flynn will wait until she's got some time alone, maybe to send a few messages or whatnot, but not yet.
Okay, we can do that after this last major encounter if it doesn't take a million years for us to do. Alright. If we're all happy, yeah, you've gotten the directions from Gwendolyn and you know that you're going to a fortune teller's place. Flynn, you've maybe on your own in private done a bit of research on the name to see if you know anything about, because you heard about her earlier, or would you not have because you've been too focused on Nathaniel?
I think I would have been too focused on Nathaniel, and Nathaniel being, like, I was focused on Nathaniel being the fix rather than looking for someone else.
Okay. Well, you're meeting her anyway because she is the Tremere go-to person. She is towards the southeast of Shadeport, actually, in cult territory. She's not in the worst of the neighborhoods, and as you pull up to her street, you don't see any signs or any posters on that street. Nothing intensely giving it away. However, she's close enough that you think that maybe she's worth asking about it. Just to give you a general idea. It is a kooky-looking building. It's a fortune teller's place. A lot of purples. The doorway has, you know, that shit in it. You know, like you sort of. It's not a door, but it's like, I don't know.
Bead curtain.
Yeah, that. There's like a few different versions of it. Just picture one and it works.
How many dream catchers are there?
Inside, well, how many dreams can be caught in one house? It's. You feel, weirdly enough, you feel kind of calm as you enter. It's like there's something in the air of the place. Carter and Flynn, you're old enough to know that Tremere havens tend to feel weird. Flynn, you never walked into Gwendolyn's house that time, did you? You just met her at the door.
It was in the garage, I believe, but not the house.
The garage, indeed. Her house was next to it, though, but you didn't go in. So you haven't got any other Tremere spaces to compare it to other than in your past. Your undefined past. But there is a calming air here and an air of... almost just an air of... I don't want to say intellectualism. It's like... You feel as though the person who lives here is smart and is wise. The air itself is telling you that this person is clever and wise.
I like books.
Oh, they're books.
No. Does it smell like books?
Oh, no. It's a waiting room with, you know, spiritual-looking decorations. Like if you perhaps knew the culture that this person is either from or are pretending to be from, then you would recognize them, but none of you flat out do. There's a sort of receptionist lady who asks if the three of you are here to see Madame Selena.
Yes.
That is good. If you were not, then you would be in the wrong place and you would have to leave. She will be with you when the time is right.
Like, they're going to be next 5-10 minutes, or are we going to be here for the long stint?
That is for the madam to know. I merely man the desk. But she does press a button, so you can hope that that is a communicative button. Doesn't take long at all, in fact. She emerges. She is also dressed in purple, kind of like the it's like stringy sort of stuff. I don't know how these. I have in
everywhere.
I have in my mind what she looks like. I just don't know what any of it's called or how to describe it because I'm bad at visuals. So, but she looks like a fortune teller. She is short, round, and seems to have, I suppose, Middle Eastern features. She seems pleasant and just sort of that calming, wise woman kind of staring through you. She's escorting a young lady out, and she's babbling about something about... From what you can make out, this lady thought her husband was cheating on her, and whatever the fortune teller told her, apparently, no, he ain't. So she's happy. And then she turns and says, "And how can I help you three wandering souls this evening? Shall I see you as a group, or...?"
Preferable.
Very well. Step inside. She leads you through another bead doorway and into a calming...
It's caught in the beard.
Yeah, basically. She does not react or in any way embarrass you, more than you have done yourself. She gestures you to sit. It's a nice sort of comfy place. There's a big couch that would fit all of you. She's got the peripherals. She's got a little crystal bowl on the coffee table and a armchair for herself, but it's very much sort of mystical living room aesthetic. It's not an office. It's a hangout space to talk. Kind of like a therapist's office, but without the qualifications at all. And she sits you down and she smiles and she says, "I can see right away that you're all in need of guidance. Though different kinds, I fear. But you are not here for yourselves, are you?"
No, we're here almost as messengers.
I see.
Gwendolyn wasn't brave enough to come.
Nor should she be.
I knew I'd like you.
Gwendolyn is... a traditionalist. Most of my clan here in Shadeport do not agree with the historical shall I say operations and hierarchies of our clan. It is a source of many great arguments that are not healthy to nearby property. Rest assured, she is wrong.
Oh, I can easily believe that.
But please, if you are here in the name of the Herald of the Camarilla, then I assume you have word from our curious prince.
Which one of us has the envelope? We did bring the envelope, right?
Roll to see if you... No.
I thought you brought it.
You brought it.
I feel like that's the sort of thing Katia
I'll
would
hand
remember.
it over.
Yes.
The adult.
She looks at it, and unlike the other two, says, "Well, of course, it would be rude to read mail in front of guests. Is there perhaps a gist that you could share with me so I at least know what it is, or are you simply the unenlightened messengers in this case?"
Elysium, date,
Ah,
location.
I see.
And I
Or an
believe
invitation.
you can bring some representatives with you as well, from what I have gathered.
A plus something.
I know not if the rest of my clan are quite so trusting of yet. It is good that there will be an Elysium. There is much discord in this town. I believe we should unite under the Camarilla, despite her. I get the feeling she means Gwendolyn. But it is a difficult prospect. Were you briefed on the state of me and mine before you came here? You weren't.
No, Gwendolyn was rudely quiet on the subject.
She would be. There is an unfortunate awkwardness between my previous dealings with your prince. Tremere tend to live in a chantry. Perhaps you've been to one. A building with many wonders and delights. The Shadeport chantry is not this place. No. Nor is it easy to find or publicly known. Your prince believes that as prince she has a right to know exactly where it is, and I do not necessarily deny this right, but it is complex. We must first see that this Camarilla is strong enough to stand. I will attend your Elysium, and I will report back to my fellows, but I will do so alone. Before I let you folks leave me, if there is nothing else in your message that you feel the need to focus on, I would, of course, be willing to share my abilities with you all as a gesture of hospitality and good faith. As I stated, I can see that you are all in need of some guidance. Perhaps I can provide it.
It would be rude to refuse such generous hospitality.
Do you keep secrets from one another? These audiences can be individual, or they can be in front of all.
I would
Perhaps-
prefer mine individual.
Yes, perhaps individually would be better.
Very well. Although in your case, and she points to Flynn, you may need the assistance of this one. And she points to Nulai. I can tell you what I see, but you cannot see it for yourself.
If Nilai is content to share, then
I can
then-
elaborate with them out of the room, and then you can make a decision if you wish.
No, I trust Nilai. This is perhaps the first time Flynn has sort of actually intimated that she does trust anyone in the coterie.
Okay. What does Katia do here? Also remain, silently get up, or does Flynn... The suggestion was made that Nulai is trusted, but nothing has been said for Katia.
She wants me out of the room. I can step out of the room.
Yeah.
That's all.
Away I go.
Katia leaves. Are you aware that you are followed by a song, my dear?
As the second time in perhaps as many days as I've heard that.
It floats in and about, making circles around your mind, but it has no pathway. It cannot get in. You are not of the right bearing to see it. Nor am I. And nor is your associate outside, but your friend here. He can hear these things if he wishes. But the song wants you. The song is for you. So you must trust him. And he must trust you. If you clasp hands, I can create a bridge that will allow this information to enter, but you will both hear it. Nothing else will happen. You will simply both hear this, whatever it is, and then the connection will be broken. I will require the consent of you both.
Would you be okay
I'm down.
doing this, Milo?
Well, it's not my first time on the song rodeo. I just hope it's a good one. Real
So do
banger.
I.
Okay. I will turn down the music in the background. It's funny because if Joanne were here, I like in my head I was like, this is so Flynn will probably get Joanne, and then okay, well we'll see if it still happens. But that's cool. Nulai gets more information than I thought he would today. You lock hands, and Selena doesn't touch you per se. She grabs something out of her various desks and cabinets and such. It's kind of a powdery thing, and she kind of throws it, and you feel just wispy sort of powder just sort of hit you both. It's weird,
Okay.
but you can dust yourself off later. And as you do, clasping hands, the sound comes into you, and it's stronger than it's been before for Nulai. You always just heard a voice, but you can hear a kind of rhythm this time as well with it. The voice comes in detailing some kind of little story. It's way out in the garden, way out in the fields, so far from these civilized nations, their discord and deals. The birds, they all know it. They showed it to me. Forgotten by man, there stands an old hanging tree. Forgotten by man, there stands an old hanging tree. Its roots are still growing, but it died long ago. Bury it down in my soul, down in my soul, down in my soul, where they'll never find me. My bones. It ends, and you're awkwardly holding each other's hands for maybe a few seconds longer than you needed to.
It's a bit ominous.
Yeah, sounds that's what it usually is.
I love that Nulai's just like, welcome to my world.
It's weird, huh? Selena looks at you. Was it informative?
Perhaps. Frightening.
Requires a little bit of deciphering, maybe, but I assume Flynn knows better.
It was for you. You can make of it what you will. She turns to Nulai and, if you have questions, she'll try to answer them, but she doesn't really know anything except, hey, that's a thing there, you should look at it.
Yeah, I've got a couple of ideas, but yeah.
Bringing the music back to Nulai. She looks and says, and do you wish for me to speak with you alone as well? Or will you return the trust offered by your friend? As you choose.
It's okay. I don't mind leaving. I understand.
Thanks.
And I feel like as she leaves, she'll just like drop a hand on Nulai's shoulder and then leave.
She looks at you and shakes her head a little. A less concrete picture I have in your case. I must confess there's no hidden music. You've heard it all. But for you I see a cloud of confusion, shall we say. You're quite certain you're here for a reason. But you have spent almost your entire time wondering and worrying about what it could possibly be. How intense. Whether this is some grand destiny or just another joke. Yes?
Something along those lines.
Well, I don't have the answer. I can tell you. The hand that brought you here, and the voice that whispers in your ear, they were the same hand. Though a different person may have steered the boat. I do not know if you have some grand destiny. I don't believe our lives are so predetermined, or our unlives. But I do know that everything you do is being watched. And I do not know if the watcher is doing so with plans in mind or simply for entertainment. I wish I had
Is there
your...
any way I can stop that?
Prevent this, whatever it is, from seeing you.
Yes.
Leave the city,
Of course,
if you can.
I assume they're watching me right now.
You won't find them if you
Nulai.
look.
Nulai just casually holds up a middle finger up in the ceiling.
At that point,
Usually they watch from above.
more music comes into your ears. And you get the impression that this music is a direct response. Every move you make. It goes on longer than that, but I don't feel the need to do the whole thing.
Yep, still watching.
A message?
An ironic one.
The city has a sense of humor. I suppose the question you must confront is whether the city wants what's best for you or not. You'll speak to some people who believe it does, and you'll speak to some people who believe the opposite. I can see many things, but I cannot see that.
Well, may not be much help, but I appreciate it nonetheless.
Of course. Anytime.
I do have one other thing. Well, I had the foresight to bring the meditation stone with him,
Ah.
and is now presenting it to Celine. What can you tell me about this?
I do believe it was enchanted by a self-righteous bitch. That's not in the stone. I just recognize the signature of the work. It's a curious thing. In any other city, it would simply be a focuser. When you hold it, your perceptions of the world around you deaden. You are able to reach deep within yourself. In this city, I would say that your connection with this Watcher increases. If you wish to get away from this Watcher, then perhaps you should use it less. In fact, perhaps you should toss it in the nearest river. But if you believe in the Watcher, then perhaps it will teach you more than I ever could. It has not been laced with any other traps, spells, enchantments, if that is your worry. It simply does what it is meant to.
Do you have any use for it? Or is this just one of many on your shelves?
I could create one if the need arose for someone in need of help focusing. But you already have one.
So you're saying I can't trade it for anything good?
We could talk shop, but you cannot offer me the creations of my own kind. I would simply make one myself.
Makes sense. I have been curious about the works of your kind. I was
Indeed.
maybe hoping to learn it myself. Your clan name gets passed around by various people, and every time it intrigues me.
Traditionally, the secrets of the Tremere are the most closely guarded of all clans around. We are like vengeful demons with it. Teach someone outside of the blood, learn that someone outside of the blood has gained some of our knowledge. Well, it might be against the prince's rule to dust a kindred, so to speak, but it has been done. Of course, I remind you of one of the very first things I said to you when you entered. With me in mind not agree too well with the traditions.
Well,
We are not opposed to sharing some of our secrets. But we are also not the Red Cross or any other form of charitable organization.
of course.
There
Well,
is something you can do
I
that we
might.
cannot.
Now we're talking. I'm all ears.
Exactly. Your friend's condition. It is not rare. The city wishes to sing to so many people, but so few have that hole necessary for it to break through. If you work with me, shall we say, part-time every few nights, temporary arrangement, I can bring some of these people in. You will help them hear what they are supposed to hear. Or what this potentially malevolent entity would like them to hear. Again, I do not know. But I do believe in open communication and allowing people to gain knowledge where possible, so I think they should be allowed to hear these messages. And you can help me accomplish that. Do so, and we can talk about teaching.
As long as information is being shared fairly, I do not oppose. The voice may not be the clearest of them all, but I do think that secrets, well, they should be uncovered someday.
It's an arrangement that benefits you quite a bit, I think. If you enjoy secrets, you will be hearing plenty of people's. Of course, most of them are mortal, and I don't quite know that their lives would be as interesting. But perhaps I'm too old.
Gossip, any little bit of gossip might brighten up this boring undead life. Unlife.
I wonder if there's a song for "She's totally banging your sister." Apologies, but some of the requests I get. She was not a good singer.
If you need a seer,
Indeed.
a song seer, a singing seer, well,
I imagine you
I
exchange
think-
contact
I think we
details,
gotta
and she says that she'll invite you. Make an arrangement. Again, that's a thing to deal with between then and next. Katia, do you go in to see what she has to say? Do the others wait outside, or are you like, fuck this, I'm going home?
Sure, I'll humor her. I have no
I'll wait.
objection if the others wish to sit in. That is their decision, as I see it.
I'll give Katia her privacy.
Nulai's already in the room. Does he leave?
yeah.
Okay, they leave. She looks at you and she's glancing sort of behind you. Like, you kind of... I don't know if you keep your cool or if you turn, but whatever Katia does, the impulse to be like, is there something behind me, is probably there. So, do you reckon you do or not?
Well, I didn't bring Pasha with me today, so... And I'll just trail off so she can finish. Whatever it is she's seeing instead. Up to her to elaborate.
I'm sorry, my dear. I wished to gain a bit more clarity in what I saw. You have shadows on your shoulder. On both. Shadows of times past. Two I see. A friend and a foe. But I don't know which is which.
That's always the difficulty, isn't it?
One is known well to you, though not in recent times. The other... Perhaps... you knew the business was unfinished? But... you would not know who you were looking at if you saw them today. As I say, one means you no harm. The other means you some. So I wish you luck.
I'll be alert.
She
People in our situation.
yeah.
Oh.
She
We always have unfinished business.
she nods, but she doesn't offer anything else. Well, she probably says, that she has protective trinkets and stuff that she as a Tremere can give, but I don't know that Katia would necessarily go for that, just insofar as the way she describes it makes it sound more like fortune teller shit.
Well, she wouldn't ask for it, but if somebody gave her something, depending on who that person was, she may entertain the idea.
The way she worded it was, if you want to buy something from me, not here's a gift. So if Katia's not the sort to like want to barter, then you'd ignore
Not
it
really.
and walk out. Yeah. All right. So she takes her letter and begins reading it as you leave. Now that the audience is over, and that is about it. I'd say that we have 2 little things to do to wrap up this session regarding the private lives, shall we say, of 2 of our coterie. Because, yeah, the weeks will go by here leading up to Elysium, and we'll do a bit of the lead up at this next session as well, but most of next session will be the event. So, at least, unless I come up with something else I want to do beforehand, but it's probably going to be the Elysium. Katia, a thing happens to you at one point in these weeks. A few nights after this, shall we say. It's when you're paying a visit to the animal shelter. Perhaps you have brought in a distressed dog that you found somewhere that you were able to coax to come with you, and you're delivering him to get a nice meal and hopefully cleaned up and sold to a loving family. You do this delivery, and the veterinarian Rajesh, who is there, mentions that there was somebody who was asking after you and said that they would like to have a quick conversation with you the next time you were here, and that they left a number to call.
Could you describe them for me?
The person?
Well, if he has a description, or if he only has the number, might as well ask.
He describes her as, not that you have met her, of course, but he describes her in the way that I described Crimson's friend Donnelly at the beginning of the session. The, older woman, thin, glasses, short black hair. Slightly longer than yours. But same kind of... Yeah, not that this character was meant to look like you, the player, just the actress in mind does kind of a little bit. Just weird coincidence, but yeah. Definitely older and frailer.
My thanks.
Do you make any
I
attempts?
won't feel a need to elaborate to him on what it may or may not be about, but I will certainly take the number. No.
Do you just put it away and leave it, or do you reach out at some point?
Oh, I'll give it a call.
Right then and there?
In the privacy of my own off-site apartment.
Okay. Hello?
You were looking for me?
Ah. Is this Katia?
It is.
I figured it prudent to reach out now to allay any worries or concerns should we encounter each other in our business, which I imagine may overlap.
And who are you?
They were reckless. They didn't know what they were getting into. And frankly, while they may not have deserved it, I respect that you and Arkady had no choice. I am here on business, and should we cross paths, it is not my intention to pick a fight. What happened then is done. Click. Believe that as you will. Do you leave that? Do you let that lie, or do you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Don't go to anybody with any of that. No name was given, just a voice on the other end of the line.
Mm-hmm.
But you were given a physical description of her, and you would probably be able to pick her out if you were to encounter her in the wild somewhere.
Rest assured, I will be on the lookout, but
Indeed.
not actively, just whatever else I might be doing.
Yeah. It's a very emotionless voice you heard there. Which could mean sincerity, could mean hiding the actual intent. Really hard to figure out what that means. Yeah. Around the same time, perhaps a night later, Flynn receives the call she was expecting from Nathaniel for a meeting in which truths shall be discussed.
Mm-hmm.
You are directed to a much better looking house than last time. It's still fairly small, but it looks owned. It looks lived in. Salim is outside, sort of standing guard at the door, and he waves and he says, "As you enter, you will feel what has been done to the place. It won't hurt, but I suggest bracing."
Thanks.
Good luck.
Yes. Flynn will enter carefully.
It's like a air rush, like you've just been blown around a little bit, as just the atmosphere changes, and it feels tight in a way. It feels like compressed air in a way, but it's not escaping out through the doorway. It's like the doorway is like an invisible barrier that you feel as you go through. Something has been done here. You've never felt a room like this before whenever you've entered a Tremere space. It feels tight and cozy, and the sort of impression that you get is that, based on what he said, whatever's been done to this place has a strong, soundproof, airtight, but like metaphysically soundproof. The secrets spoken in this place will not be able to get out, nor will anything be able to get in.
The current of silence.
You can walk in and out, but thoughts and ideas, like some, you from what he told you, you think, you're like, this is what some kind of psychic barrier feels like, you know? It's weird. If you speak, your voice sounds different a little, but still perfectly audible and clear. It's just like it's lost all echo. It's like there's no echo in this place at all. Weird.
Okay.
So you have to be a little louder than normal. It's well lit. Takes you a while to find Crimson, because he's on the second floor and he doesn't call out to you. Or maybe he did, but you couldn't hear it. He's once again sitting fairly relaxed in a living area. And the first thing he says is, "I apologize for the uncomfortable air."
It's fine. I dare say it's needed.
But this is the only way I can be sure that it does not hear us.
By it, do you mean the city?
He starts talking, but we don't really need to share that with the class tonight, I don't think, do we? We can have our discussion about that later.
We're gonna Sopranos fade to black.
Yeah, except you haven't been shot in the head.
Yet.
Unless you're missing next week, in case, what happened to Flynn? I don't know! So, I think that's a good stopping point. I know we didn't have a lot of action in this session, but I think it was all important. I did want to bring the Tremere in as well, and yes, ducks in a row for Elysium. We have a few things to sort out in the off time, Joanne, I think, will be learning from a book. Nulai, I think, will be being an apprentice fortune teller. Katya, you're waiting to see what moves are made. But you can also work with Mikhail doing the lessons that he gave you before. You could maybe talk to him a little about the sort of mental resistance stuff, see if there's anything in what was done to him that could be, I guess, translated, but it doesn't seem like a solid bet. And Flynn, I will be sending you words.
Oh, good.
Yes.
The word.
Not immediately, because, you know,
Yeah.
I've already written enough today, but thank you, everybody. Fare thee well. Be here in 2 weeks, unless we have to postpone, for the Elysium. I'd say dress fancy, but Flynn is in voice, and I don't have fancy clothes, so I'm not going to burden the rest of you with it. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Flynn is waving, I promise.
If you
Boom.